Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber,
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Not applicable to PayPal Here transactions. Other fees may apply. Shop safe with PayPal.
Electrical pros, the Home Depot can help you put safety first with a 4-pack of Kidde FireX hardwire smoke detectors for just $39.97. Order these interconnected smoke alarms online and you put safety first. And that's followed by $10 savings on each pack, free delivery, and peace of mind knowing you got the right brand for fire safety. See? Put safety first and everything else follows when you order a 4-pack of Kidde smoke detectors for just $39.97. Only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. U.S. only.
ChristopherMedia.net.
From Asthma Core Studios near Detroit, Michigan, it's Unregimented.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
And now, here are your hosts.
Welcome back to Unregimented. This is episode number 304. My name is Aaron. I have Rich here with me. Say hello to the folks, Rich. There you go.
It's been a while.
Yeah, hey. Some people might be surprised to see this popping up on their feed again. Yeah, we had a very long extended holiday. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that works. Sure.
And Rich and I are back. We expect that Chris will be joining us at some point in the future, maybe off and on. He's got a regular terrestrial radio. He went retro. He went back to the actual airwaves.
Yeah, he's a podcasting was too new for him. He went hipster on us.
Well, yeah, but he's gonna do both. He's still involved with Christopher Media, of course. It's his baby ultimately, and he will be on the show when he has the time to do so. In between working 2 jobs, one of them which takes him traveling quite a bit, but he'll be back. In the meantime, there's been a lot that's been going on since we last recorded, and I guess certainly the biggest news has been the whole kerfuffle with Iraq.
You mean Iran?
I'm sorry. So the thing is, obviously Iraq and Iran, a lot of people transpose the two, I'm sure, but also a lot of this conflict between Iran and the U.S. has been happening in Iraq, so that's probably why I said that. But yeah, I guess this all starts with the assassination, right?
Yeah, that supposedly stopped an impending attack, but there's no proof. Is that what I'm hearing? Or that's what I'm hearing? Is that correct?
Well, I guess there's no proof that they're willing to talk about. It's all classified. There was a briefing that these senators had with the Pentagon that gave them some more information about what was going on, why the reasons for this action, why now. Nobody had a whole lot to say about the briefing except for a couple of senators that mostly Rand Paul and who's the other libertarian guy in the Senate were both super pissed. They said that the briefing was insulting and didn't really go into a ton of detail as to why, but the implication seems to be that there really was nothing there. I mean, you could nothing there, meaning no justification for why now, why this action now, and of course, ultimately, we know why, right? I mean,
well, if we're going by Trump's past tweets directed at Obama with his crystal ball from back in the day, claiming that Obama was going to attack Iran at any minute to help with his 2012 re-election.
Yeah, he tweeted out that Obama will attack Iran. It will start a war with Iran in order to solidify his re-election. And I'm like, it's true what they say. There's a Trump tweet for every occasion.
Yeah. So, I mean, if his prediction about using his logic and about Obama against him, well, this is a tactic to get his base riled up for this year's election. I mean,
yeah, and to have something else to talk about it besides impeachment.
Yeah, that too.
Remember when Clinton was being impeached? What was, God damn it, I can't remember the name of the country. There was a genocide happening there.
Oh, it was Milosevic. We went after Milosevic, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't remember the country.
It'll come to me. I was still young. I was barely paying attention at that point. But I do remember the accusations of, wasn't this going to be, why are you all of a sudden bombing Milosevic now that you're being impeached? I mean, I think the difference, though, is that there were a lot of people that were saying something needs to be done about Milosevic, right? And he wasn't acting. And he chose that time. Now, did he choose that time because it was twofold for him? I can appease these people who are asking me to step in and also give the news something to talk about besides my impeachment? Probably so. But Trump doesn't have that, right? He doesn't have people clamoring for doing something about whatever the fuck his name is. Nobody knew who the fuck he was before. He executes a general, right? He assassinates him, and then claims that the guy's a terrorist. Well, which is it?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. To me, this seems to me like a situation of the winner gets to write history and gets to dictate the narrative. And I mean, he's a terrorist to us, but I mean, if you go back to the Revolutionary War, our founding fathers were terrorists to the British. So,
well, right, but by that very definition, if he's a terrorist, then aren't our own generals terrorists as well? Don't they do the same things? I
mean, it's pretty much that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're looking at it from their side, it's like, well, what's the difference between what you people do?
Right. Terrorist used to mean that it was a non-governmental action, right? When ISIS is a group, but ISIS isn't a government, right? They don't have any representation. They don't have, they can't apply to the UN. They don't adhere to normal rules of war, and therefore we are not required to as either in response to them. But to actually execute a general, call him a terrorist, and then say, well, there were impending attacks that there was a reason for us to act. Well, what does that mean when you're talking about a general and somebody who's acting in the interests of his own state, right or wrong? And let's not get things confused. I'm not defending Iran, this general, any of their actions, but
well, it just seems to me at the beginning of in the immediate aftermath that we had killed this guy, the narrative was, well, he orchestrated and organized an attack against our embassy in Iraq.
Right. Which is the definition of his job, right?
So that's why we retaliated. Then it turned into, well, I haven't heard really anything more about that, because now and I'm talking about the narrative from the people that support what we did. That was what they were saying. Now it is, well, he was making plans for terrorist attack against us, but we can't tell you what it was, but trust us, it was bad. Anytime, I don't give a fuck what name you or letter you have by your name if you're a politician. When your response is, I'm not going to tell you what's going on, but trust me, it's bad. I don't trust them. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, come on now. If you stopped it, what, you can't tell us?
Well, also, if he's a general, right, that means that, again, he's acting in the interest of his state. So that means that he has people above him and he has people below him. Mm-hmm. He has a clear chain of command. And if you kill an American general, does that mean that our army runs around in circles? Does that mean that the Navy just sits there and doesn't know what to shoot at?
No.
Absolutely. There's a reason for having that chain of command in a government-sanctioned military.
Even if you
so that no matter who falls, the plan stays the same. So how does killing a general, whether you want to refer to him as a terrorist or not, how does killing a general stop an attack?
Yeah, that's the part that I'm left scratching my head. I mean,
and it's the part that I don't hear anybody talking about, really. I think we just all accept that in the media is accepted that, like, okay, anyone who supports Trump on this is going to continue to support Trump on this, is going to toe the line, and anybody who doesn't, this isn't going to change their mind either, right? So let's just gloss over the fact that the president is just clearly lying about the reasons and about the idea. I mean, it's not even like you could find evidence for it. Show me any tech, any plan, anything. It doesn't matter. If this was a member of Al-Qaeda, they're not as structured. Certainly they regroup. They have other leaders that they can turn to. But from what we've seen, taking down leaders of a terrorist group actually does make a real difference.
It definitely slows up it slows up and gums up the works for them. Whereas the military, maybe Trump isn't aware of this. There are things called battlefield commissions. You can take out the commanding officer, and they will give a battlefield commission and promotion, which is a promotion in the field to someone else to take his place immediately. Yeah. If they can't, install another commander that they want at that moment. So once again, is this Trump not listening to anybody around him who are actually experts on situations and just him going nuts? I mean, I do know I watched a handful of his press conference where he got up there and, had to get a dig at, well, the previous administration is the reason this all happened. And he had, the usual general standing behind him, just standing there looking stoic as fuck. Right. None of them really looked thrilled. All success is 100% either. Trump from day one that he enters the office, and any non-success is from his predecessor. That's his logic. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, all the military people standing around, I mean, their job is to look stoic in the face of whatever. But they didn't seem like they were overly thrilled to be standing there. You know what I'm saying? And when you're in the military, there's you're given an order, and then you're ordered to volunteer. And this is just pure speculation on my part. But looking at some of the faces of the people standing behind them, they might have been ordered to volunteer to appear with the commander in chief during that press conference. So they were just like, well, okay. Everything, all his events are staged. He likes to, because he speaks off the cuff and he thinks that he's this great magnanimous personality, that these are just natural events. He says, hey, I'm going to blank. I'm going to fucking buttfuck Ohio, and 30,000 people show up and all buy tickets. But it's bullshit. First of all, if you look at the pictures of his rallies, it's all the same people behind him. Rally after rally. He's got actors behind him. On top of that, they're giving away tickets to this shit. And they're going to places where there ain't shit going on. You give away tickets to somebody that you saw on TV that's going to show up somewhere and talk, everybody's coming out. And I do have to, this is tinfoil hat territory, but whatever. I do kind of wonder, if the security is as tight as you would think it would be when a sitting president is visiting and holding let's just call it what it is, a campaign rally. Yeah. How do these protesters get in with these signs and all this shit? It seems like, are they plants? Are they allowed to get in there because he knows that'll rile up his base? I wouldn't be surprised, if they had liberal plants too there, yeah. Because they need somebody to point at and say, look, that person's crazy. This is why we hate liberals. Exactly. I mean, I just my trust in the political process has been severely put to the test with all this, and it's wearing really thin at this point. I mean, because basically on a long enough timeline, any politician is going to say something to contradict what they're saying right now, and they're usually going to do it in support of their party or someone who's seen as a leader of their party at the time. I mean, there was a quote from Biden from almost, I want to say, might have been a little bit over 20 years ago, that was dug up about this Samahali or whatever the general was that was killed.
Yeah.
He said,
it doesn't matter.
If he is a threat, then he basically said if he is a threat, then the U.S. would be right in taking him out. And it's like, yeah, but that's a quote that's taken out of no context. I don't know the context of the interview. Was he talking about any threat to the U.S. in general? Was he talking about this specifically? Did he pick this guy's name out of the air? Did the interviewer ask the question? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right?
Was he saying it? Was he saying it to kind of back Clinton's play? Because it was around the time of Milosevic. Was he saying it to back Clinton's play? Which is, I mean, if you're a soldier for your party, that's what you do. You pick up a gun and fight the party line. I mean, that's ultimately. Sadly, that's what a lot of politics is. Should it be that way? Fuck no. Politics should be, I don't care if it goes with or against my party. This is right, this is wrong, and this is what my constituents put me here for, to make these decisions, you know?
Yeah, well, this ties into something else that I wanted to talk about, because the next step in this is, we know that Iran retaliated with some missile strikes, didn't kill any of the U.S. troops or any Iraqis, I don't believe either, in Iraq. Although it seems like, and there's conflicting reports, this is all kind of coming out right before we started recording, so I don't know if you saw any of this yet, but there was a Ukrainian jetliner that was shot down over Iraq. Or, I'm sorry, let me back up. There's a Ukrainian jetliner that was that crashed in Iraq, and nobody could figure out why. And now this footage comes out where you can see one of the Iranian missiles hitting something in the sky, and you can't tell what it is, but let's put two and two together here. I mean, how many large objects are flying around in the sky that can be shot down by missiles and nobody's going to miss? Well, none of those things, actually. No, there's nothing that we send up into the sky that just falls down and nobody notices.
Yeah.
So it has to be. Now, Iran is not claiming that this was done intentionally. There's no reason for it to be done intentionally. And our own Pentagon seems to be saying that it doesn't seem to be done intentionally either. It was just an unfortunate tragedy of wrong place, wrong time. But anyway, so Iran retaliates. Thankfully, Trump seems to be relatively cool-headed about this, which is one of the things that I'll give him a little bit of props on, because up until this point with this recent assassination, before that, he was really level-headed about Iran. He talks a big game like he does with all the like North Korea and whatnot, but when it came to actually being aggressive, using our military against Iran, he wasn't down for that. So, maybe he got it out of his system. Maybe he made his point. There doesn't seem to be any plans for retaliating for the retaliation, which is basically how you start a war. But in the meantime, there's a lot of fear, certainly, of what Trump's going to do next, right? And for some reason, we're so short-sighted, right? All of us, especially our elected leaders, are so short-sighted because they're only concerned about the power of the presidency when the president is ready to or is already wielding said power. Because they signed in the House today a war powers resolution on Iran. Now, this is non-binding. Which basically means they're just casting an opinion. But they did get some Republicans, including Matt Gaetz, who you might remember from the Whitehead, who was claiming that he was locked out of the impeachment hearings.
Okay.
But so they actually did get some Republicans to vote for this. And this is because this action was done under the War Powers Resolution Act that was just after 9/11, right? That gave Bush at the time and every president since the ability to fight terrorism unilaterally without having to go through Congress, which in a case like when we're fighting Iraq, we're fighting ISIS, ISIL, any of these terrorist groups, makes sense. If you're going to go to war against a country, that's going to be usually a pretty prolonged thing, and you should have the full support of the representatives behind you and the people. But you don't have, when you're fighting terrorist groups, you don't have that structure to go through. Right? So anyway, what really gets me is that the Democrats are concerned right now about the amount of power that Trump has to act against Iran, which is all well and good, but why wasn't this a problem for them before? It's the power to go to war with pretty much anyone, because let's face it, when's the last time Congress approved going to war? World War II?
Didn't they approve it in 2003 for Iraq?
I guess you're right. I take that back. Still fairly common.
Outside of Iraq, the last time we actually declared an official war was World War II.
Okay.
Everything since has been policing actions, including Vietnam. That's a hell of a policing action, though. So go tell a Vietnam vet that and see if you don't get the shit slapped out of you. You didn't fight in a real war. Oh, really?
Yeah.
There's a wall that has 50,000 plus names on it that says a little bit different, all right? Believe me, if 50,000 cops over a 10-year period lost their lives, we wouldn't call that a policing action, all right?
So I think that the president shouldn't have unilateral power to declare war or to use the military, really. But my problem with this is that this is part of the pattern of the biggest blind spot for the Democrats during the Trump presidency. And it's this idea that you have to restrain this person, right? Trump is unstable. Trump is crazy and impulsive, and we have to find ways to restrain him. He's breaking the law. He's talking to other countries and enlisting their help in getting elected. He's making money off of the presidency. It's him, right? But all he's doing are all the things that he can do and what he can get away with because of the immense power that we've ceded to the president over the course of decades. And the problem isn't Trump. The problem is the power of the presidency. If the power of the presidency was properly checked like the other branches of government, then it wouldn't matter if somebody like Trump or anybody else who we might consider unstable got in there, because their actions would be restrained and checked.
Well, doesn't it kind of point out what we consider most important? I mean, because how many times have we heard, well, the president really doesn't have as much power as people think. He's more of a figurehead. It's Congress that really, controls everything, et cetera, yet the president can essentially, if I'm remembering correctly, can basically declare war for 90 days without Congress approving it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was an article about 3,500 paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne have already been deployed over there. And I mean, like, when I say deployed, I'm talking like they said, leave your cell phones, say goodbyes to your family. We're not exactly sure when you're coming back. And the veterans, the senior NCOs, the guys who have been in 10, 15 plus years are just like, oh shit, we've seen this before. We know what this means. The young guys were like, we're going to war, man. And they're like, yeah, but it ain't what you think. You grew up on Hollywood's version of war. This isn't Hollywood, man.
Right.
This is us going over there, hurry up and wait. And meanwhile, we could be there for years, whereas before it wasn't like that. You did your stint overseas and you rotate back to the States. So I just kind of find it funny that we limit the president's power when it comes to a lot of aspects of what people think he has power with, but when it comes to war, which ultimately is big business, well, I mean, sure, we could do the 90-day trial version of this war before we have Congress approve it. And it's like, hey, do you like this? Would you like to sign up for it? Sure. This war is going all right.
Right.
The right money's going in the right people's pocket. Let me give them my credit card number.
This is like a chick telling you can't fuck me, but I will let you put it in, and we'll just see what happens from there. Somebody's getting fucked.
I'm just going to lay there. I'm not going to move, but you can just stick it in. Okay, well, I've had dates that's happened on, and so sure.
Yeah, but I mean, what's going to happen after 90 days? Like, Congress is just going to say, all right, that's it. Your time's up, out of the pool. Well, there's going to be all kinds of reasons why, well, we can't stop now. They'll have us on the run.
Come on, baby. I can't stop now. You got me going. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. No, but they got me so excited.
The one thing I will say is it's about Trump's press conference that he gave was he did seem to have a, like you said, like kind of a restrained attitude. I mean, of course, he did a little bit of, trying to flex his nuts. He's, this was to show that if you mess with us, you will pay the price. Okay, well, I guess any president's going to have to say something along those lines if they did what he did. I mean, most would put it in a more couth way than that, in a more politic way than that, I guess. But it's Trump. We've come to expect the outlandish statements to the point where it phases nobody anymore.
Right. But, he said something that I thought was the best thing that he said probably during his presidency. First of all, it didn't include any lies. And also it was just correct and good policy, I think. He said, we have the largest military in the world, but we don't want to use it.
Well, I hope he means that. I hope it's just not him blowing smoke out his ass. I mean, I really do. And I guess that's... You'd mentioned the few libertarians that are in Congress, or the Senate. I think one of them was the guy who, from Western Michigan. I can't remember his name. He left the Republicans.
Right.
But yeah, basically, him and was it Ron Paul?
Rand
Paul.
Yeah.
Wait, of course it's Rand Paul. Why would I think Ron Paul? But anyways,
which I think it's just the same person. They just recycled them anyway.
But yeah, their thing was, we are not the world's police, et cetera, et cetera. A pretty standard libertarian belief.
Yeah, they're isolationists. They do not want to get involved in any of this shit. But it's not the same story with, and I think it was only a handful, probably less than 5 Republicans, I think, actually came over to vote with the Democrats to curtail Trump's actions against Iran. Again, this being a non-binding type of thing, so completely toothless. But these do matter in as far as putting things on the record, and you have Republicans who are willing to go on the record to say they don't want the president starting shit with Iran. I think he's getting a decent amount of pushback, even outside of the libertarians, from his own party on this. And that's probably making him see light. This was like a test balloon for Trump, I think. This is floating it out there. Let's see how people react to this. Does it get them riled up and be like, yeah? Do I see any T-shirts out in the crowd that are talking about turning it all into a flat plane of glass?
Oh, I'm sure you don't have to look too hard in a group of Trump
they're still
supporters.
Around. People still have those from 03.
Yeah. I remember it was probably 2 days after 9/11. I remember people setting up stands on the side of the road amidst the American flag, everything that was around, that had shirts that said, had a picture of the Middle East, and it said Lake Afghanistan, and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, all right. I mean, like, hey, we'll turn a buck. That's American as fuck. We're going to turn a buck off of something somehow. In some way, I'm going to make a profit off of this. I see shit. I see shit like that, and I mean, I understand it, because, if you're just a pure capitalist, it's like, this is a chance to make money. You know what? Do your thing, I guess. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, No wonder we're looked at as such a crass society by the rest of the world, by so much of the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Like we really are the uncouth little brothers that are just burping and farting at the dinner table, aren't we? Just rude as fuck, you know. Anyways.
Well, Iran used to be, they were quite the liberal society back in the day. It's religion that's actually ruined them.
Which goes back to, it's either, what did Dylan say? Governments, corporations, or a religion, you're going to end up serving somebody.
You got to serve somebody.
Yeah. So I mean, we can pretty much, if you've listened to this podcast before, if this is your first day, it's a little bit different one than usual, but if you've listened to this podcast, you know that we pretty much all fall on the side of, we can go ahead and just scratch religion off of that. Like that's, we're not big on like state-sponsored religions and enforced religions. But,
well, I'm certainly an atheist myself. I've grown to have a lot of tolerance for religion on the small scale, but at the same time, my intolerance for, like you were saying, government-sponsored religion, which we also have here, it's no question as to what the dominant religion of America is. But that's when you have the real problems. That my intolerance of government-sanctioned religion is just growing.
Electrical pros, the Home Depot can help you put safety first with a 4-pack of Kidde FireX hardwire smoke detectors for just $39.97. Order these interconnected smoke alarms online and you put safety first. And that's followed by $10 savings on each pack, free delivery, and peace of mind knowing you got the right brand for fire safety. See? Put safety first and everything else follows when you order a 4-pack of Kidde smoke detectors for just $39.97. Only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. U.S. only.
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber,
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Not applicable to PayPal Here transactions. Other fees may apply. Shop safe with PayPal.
Dear Home, we need a change. A little room evolution. We need HomeSense, where one bold piece can change your whole place. Like a leather sofa built for beauty and binge watching. With endless discoveries, I'll always bring you something pretty, or cool, or pretty cool. You want a new hand-woven rug? Game-changing savings mean the answer is yes. I'm going now because unique is every day. And you never overpay. Love you. HomeSense. This changes everything.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net. ChristopherMedia.net.
Unregimented.
Yeah, I'm not. I understand, and I guess this is me getting a little softer on religion as I get older. I can understand certain aspects of it and how it does serve society as a whole. It gives people something bigger than themselves to believe into. It gives you a sense of community, and this is on a much smaller scale, by the way. I'm talking like as far as the church you belong to, not these mega churches, not televangelists, not national religions, where basically a leader is propped up as a prophet or a descendant of the actual prophet or whatever the fuck. But at the same time, it's like, it's so easy to just, for the scales to tip and it just start getting out of control. And that's leads me back to, we're always going to have the extremist. We need moderates too. We need someone who's going to stand and like straddle the middle of the seesaw and try to keep it as balanced as possible, or else we're just going to keep clunk from one extreme to the other constantly, and all the chaos that comes with that. And with religion, it's kind of hard to find moderates. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, this country at one point in our lives before 9/11, before Muslims were the big, the new threat, the new boogeyman, there were parts of this country that were ready to tear each other apart over, Catholics aren't true Christians, really? That's some, are we still fighting that?
I don't even know what that means.
Catholics are, to certain evangelical Christians who believe, because the Catholic Bible is different from other versions of the Bible, and the Catholics, worship the Virgin Mary as the Holy Mother, and et cetera, et cetera. To people who believe in only the Holy Trinity, the Father, God, the Son, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, that's it. That's all they believe in. To worship anybody else is idolatry. And
so Catholics think that the Virgin Mary is some, she wouldn't be a god, but what is she then? Is it something supernatural?
Higher than a saint, less than Jesus and God himself.
Okay.
And I mean, that's another thing you I can only speak for the religion that my family was raised in and tried to raise me in, which is Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
They see, the fact that the Pope will change religious dogma or will change rules. Wait a minute, that's not the way the Bible was written. They believe the Bible is the exact word, literal word of God, not to be changed. Nothing's a metaphor. These aren't just good parables to tell, to teach lessons. These are literally what happened. Literally, Jonah lived in the belly of a giant fish for X amount of days. Literally, this happened, whereas Catholics, they've softened over the years. I mean, certain sects of Catholicism, and Catholicism has been splintered off into different religions. You have Lutherans who came from Catholicism, which they pretty much believe the same thing except for a few core beliefs, but that was enough for them to divide and pick a side with their own new brand of religion. You see what I'm saying? This is the nonsense that happens when you get too many people that can't agree on something. Instead of just going, we don't know, and how about this? Why don't we just take it on faith that we'll find out when we die? Maybe This isn't something that we're supposed to know on this planet. Maybe this is, maybe this is something that when we die, God will reveal to us in the spirit realm. Isn't that part of being religious? Is that you accept miracles are possible? So maybe it was just a miracle. That's why we can't explain it scientifically or understand it with our worldly minds. No, they'll split off and be, pissed at each other, and we don't like you because you believe this. Well, we don't like you because you believe. It's just nonsense, man.
Right. Well, the book that I'm reading, excuse me, the book that I'm reading right now is, I forget the title of it, Quicksilver. It's by Neil Stephenson, who wrote a number of kind of fantasy and science fiction tinged books. And this one takes place in, it's kind of, it's really just a historical fiction book, though there's a little bit of magical elements, but not much. And it takes place in the 1600s, and it's like the Catholic Church versus everybody, right? All these different religions are splintering off. I don't think they were even called Lutherans at the time, probably just followers of Martin Luther, right? So the same thing. So, right. So the chaos in the book is just constant. They don't really, it's not what they're majorly following. The story is following more information and money and kind of how they're the same thing. But in between, it's like so-and-so is king and he's a papist. So all the what they call libels, which are all these splinter religions that go out onto the street and pass out their literature, they all get jailed. And then somebody else gets into power and he's not a papist. So now all the Catholics go into jail while that guy's king. And it just keeps ping-ponging back and forth like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at history, we're pretty good at that. And we don't have 50,000 year sample size of recorded history. So imagine what it's going to look like another 48,000 years down the line, if we're even still around.
Yeah.
How many times religions have rose and then fallen, and et cetera, et cetera. It's just to say, to an outsider, religion, if you're not part of that religion, you weren't raised in it, and it's not an ingrained part of your culture, it's a monolithic thing. Like, you talk to the average person who wasn't raised around any type of Muslims, and they think Islam is just this monolithic religion that they all believe exactly the same thing. That's just not true. They have their different factions inside Islam that believe different things. And believe it or not, they go to war with each other. They're really not fond of each other, And we have the same thing, look at the situation in Ireland. I mean, even though you can really say that's more of a land war dressed up as a religious war to get people riled up and, hey, look, it's really not about land. It's about your God. And they're trying to take your way of life and your way of worship away from you. Aren't you mad? Yeah. All right. Well, that's my land. Go die for it so I can keep it, I mean, go fight for your religion. Sorry. So, yeah,
It is interesting that I think I don't know any statistics on this, but I know in the U.S. that we have less people than ever before claiming to either be atheist or agnostic or just don't belong to any particular organized religion. And I would imagine that's true for the world in general, that religion is waning and it's at its lowest ebb that it's probably ever been in human history since the invention of religion. But yet it's still, like you were saying, it's a monolith. It holds so much sway. And that's why I was saying the biggest problem with religion is when it gets tied into governments. And it's the same thing that you were talking about, like in Ireland. You kind of have a prepackaged team, right?
Yeah.
You have a group of people that already believe the same thing. We'll all side up with together. All you have to do is give them a reason why what this person is doing is not just an affront to whatever, my land or somebody's rights. It's directly an attack against your religion.
Yeah, and it really does become a team situation about everything. I have family who are from Ireland and are Catholic, and if you were to say offer them a drink and they agreed to it, and you tried to give them Bushmills, they'd look at you and go, "That's Protestant whiskey."
Yeah,
you don't have any Jamesons. And it's like, look, man, I like Jamesons as much as the next plastic patty who was not born in Ireland but still has a little like, okay, all right, it's a little tied to the homeland. But if it's a free drink, I don't give a fuck what it is. It could be some. Is it Muslim whiskey? It sounds like an oxymoron to me, but I'll try it. Let's go. I mean, so it's Well, I mean, Ireland's still one of the places where they have, that's considered part of Western culture. Well, it is Western culture. But they got blasphemy laws. They literally have comedians sitting in prison for telling what's considered blasphemous jokes over there.
Oh, really?
And I mean, it's like we're not talking going to Germany and doing a bunch of jokes about Nazis. You know what I'm saying? We're talking jokes that we don't even consider shocking anymore. Anything that could be considered blasphemy by the most sensitive person, if they're in a position of power to charge you, yeah, you're going to be charged and so be convicted for it.
So this isn't like they're not speaking out against a particular religion or saying anything particularly controversial. It's just blasphemy could be like a sketch where they talk to God, right?
Yeah.
Like if you speak in God's voice, that's blasphemy.
If the wrong people find it blasphemous and they hear you, yes, you could be in trouble.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous. I mean, it's I don't know if you heard, but Netflix had like a comedy special where Jesus comes home to visit his parents and he brings his gay lover home.
Oh, really?
And people were like, "Oh, this is horrible. Pull this from Netflix." And my whole thing was, okay, great, wonderful. And it's a Brazilian comedy troupe, which really does kind of take balls because Brazil is. Oh yeah. Brazil's pretty damn religious. So I mean, like they were. It's not so much to do it here because here, what are you going to get? You're going to get protested. You're going to get a couple Facebook and Twitter groups against you, and that's pretty much going to be the end of it. In Brazil, you might get killed for that shit.
Yeah.
So they got balls, and I was like, okay, cool, whatever. It's not that big of a deal, but like I said, reading up on it, apparently, like. This comedy troupe was having legitimate death threats, not just the typical, you should kill yourself because you got into an argument with someone online type shit. We're talking like, yeah, we know where you live. Here's your address. We're coming for that ass. That type stuff. And I mean, to me, that's just insane. And we hear the word privilege thrown around willy-nilly, but that is one of the privileges of living in America is that we can get on a podcast and say, fuck Christianity, fuck Islam, fuck Judaism, fuck all religions. And governments. And fuck Ford, Chrysler, and GM, which, maybe 50, 60 years ago would have got you beat in this area, because we are in the Detroit area. But now it's like, neither of our doors are being kicked in. We'll still be on next, God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll be on next week. So, I mean, we are privileged in that aspect. And I forget that at times. And some of these times, I read these stories and these articles, and I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, we got our problems with religion over here in the Westboro Baptist Church, which pretty much has become a joke at this point. They're just a punchline. But they were taken seriously for quite a while there. When they were protesting soldiers' funerals and, with the God hates American soldiers because they defend fags and all that stuff. And I'm like, how do you get soldiers dying is because God's angry about gay marriage. But then again, you think that Jesus died for your sins, which doesn't make any sense either. How they're the two connected, but whatever, I
never understood that one.
That's why they tell it to you when you're a kid. They tell you all these things they pump into the heads of you as a kid, because as a kid you just go, oh, wait a minute, so Santa comes down the chimney and brings me gifts? Yes. Okay, cool. And it's not until like maybe 6, the average kid goes, wait a minute, we don't have a chimney nor a fireplace. How the fuck does he get in here? Yeah. Is Santa a ghost? Oh, shit. Should I be scared of Santa? Are we going to get haunted by Santa this year, Ma? But yeah, I mean, it's just, we have, like I said, we have our issues, but for the most part, the only power religion has in this country is as a voting base, really. And that's even dwindling. I mean, really. And if you look at a lot of Trump supporters who are religious, they are wallowing in hypocrisy to support him. And I know a lot of religious people in my family who won't vote Democrat, but will not vote Trump. So they're just not voting. Because they're like, he's not a man of God. And to dress himself up that way, they would almost rather come out and say, you know what? I'm just not religious. I'm agnostic, or I'm an atheist, and here's my beliefs, but I'm pro-life. So,
speaking of Trump and religion, I saw a clip of this was something that somebody had posted on Twitter, and it was of what's Jim Baker's kid's name? James, is that the one? I call him a kid. He like
his kid?
Yeah, it would.
I know Tammy Faye was his wife. I'm not sure about his kid's name, but it's probably James. I could see that.
I think it's James. He's doing the whole. I don't know, the whole religion thing, whatever you want to call it. So he's got a show and everything. He's talking on his show about loving Trump, right? And the person who posted this was like, this is the cult of Trump. And, this is why these people are sick in the head. They're willing to look past all of this shit. But what he's talking about in the clip is actually that they understand that Trump is flawed, and that the only way that you can love Trump is, I forget how he phrased it exactly, but he was basically saying being a good Christian. That having love in your heart allows you to love even flawed people. And that was his justification for why how he could love Trump even though we know that he's done stuff that he's sinned, right?
He's taken the Christians aren't perfect, they're just forgiven route.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And the better person is the one who's able to forgive.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the thing, like I don't like this phrase, the Trump derangement syndrome, but I might have to concede and say that this is an actual real thing. Now, this gets used in any time anyone's criticizing Trump over anything, but there really are people who are so blind, because what he was saying, there's nothing wrong with what he's saying. I'm certainly no fan of Trump. I'm certainly no fan of religion, but all he's saying is you can be good and love people who do bad. And that's an absolute truth. And I see how it applies to Trump. Now, the difference here is I can, out of all the people that I've loved in my life, I wouldn't vote for any of them for any office. Not for garbage commissioner. I don't know anybody that I would cast my vote for. So you can be good and you can love sinners, but you don't have to put them in the fucking presidency. Well, that's where his argument really falls apart.
See, if we had like a minister of marijuana, I'd vote Chris in as the minister of marijuana, because marijuana would be 100%, not only 100% legal, but mandatory the next day.
Yeah.
It's like Bill Hicks said. He'd just walk around and be like, people would be on the street bitching, and he'd walk up and he'd go, "You're taking life seriously. Hit this."
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Better? Much. Thank you,
Yeah, within a week, there'd be people showing up at your door giving you joints.
Exactly. It's like Fahrenheit 451, except burning books. They're over there to burn one with you. We're the
presidential.
Yeah. But, see, a lot of the problem that I have is that I hear this constantly from, and what's ironic is it's the same thing I hear from religious people of any bent, of it doesn't matter what religion they are, and people who are hardcore political ideologues. Any criticism of their ideologies, they go, well, that wasn't real Christianity, that wasn't real Islam, that wasn't real communism. Oh, okay. Let me guess though, what real whatever, insert whatever is though, right? Yeah. Everybody else has got it wrong, but right? Like, no, that is real. There are a bunch of asshole Christians. Who's the first person to tell another person they're going to hell? A Christian. Right. I had this happen at work the other day. One of my coworkers found out that I'm not religious. Oh, that's not good, Rich. If you die and you haven't accepted Christ as your Lord and Savior, you're going to go to hell. And I'm like, well, if it stands to reason, if I don't believe in Jesus as the divine Son of God, then I probably don't believe in his idea of hell either. So it's kind of an empty threat, don't you think?
Yeah. But then again, I mean, there's no shame in hedging your bets. I'm not so proud that I wouldn't have a deathbed conversion, because what do I have to lose?
Yeah, but the difference is we'd have to give you a tablet and scroll through like a Wikipedia list of every religion as you convert to them one by one, just to cover all your bets. You would literally be like at the roulette table putting a chip on every number.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in case, it's the last spin I'm going to be sucking wind for, just in case, Here, I'll even bet on the house there. How about that,
Right. Meanwhile, it turns out there is a God, but he's actually completely passive, hates religion and people in general, and the only people he lets into his quote-unquote heaven are those who stayed atheists their whole lives. And he was like, you almost passed the test.
You were ahead of the race and you stumbled at the end.
I was going to let you into science heaven, but geez.
The God you're describing sounds a lot like George Carlin. I'm just saying. Hey. How do you get into heaven? You don't be religious. You don't believe in any of this bullshit.
Now you're going to have to go to Christian heaven, and it's lame.
Yeah, I know. Don't you want to go to heaven? Why? Why would I want to go to heaven? It's full of Christians. No. I've been to church. Church forever? Get the fuck out of here. Have you ever hung out with sinners? That's fun. That's seriously fun, Oh, God.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net.
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber,
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Not applicable to PayPal Here transactions. Other fees may apply. Shop safe with PayPal.
Electrical pros, the Home Depot can help you put safety first with a 4-pack of Kidde FireX hardwire smoke detectors for just $39.97. Order these interconnected smoke alarms online and you put safety first. And that's followed by $10 savings on each pack, free delivery, and peace of mind knowing you got the right brand for fire safety. See? Put safety first and everything else follows when you order a 4-pack of Kidde smoke detectors for just $39.97. Only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. U.S. only.
For the ones who know that a little late is always too late. And that the clock doesn't stop just because you're missing a part. Grainger offers supplies and solutions for every industry. And our Keep Stock inventory management solutions help ensure you have the right stuff in the right place at exactly the right time. Visit Grainger.com/keepstock to learn more. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber,
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Not applicable to PayPal Here transactions. Other fees may apply. Shop safe with PayPal.
ChristopherMedia.net. Unregimented.
Well, we got off on a bit of a religion jag, as it tends to happen anytime it comes up. But we weren't quite finished with politics. Do you want to talk about what's happening with impeachment right now?
Yeah, I'm a little, because I had a little bit of a break, so I haven't been listening to I get most of my news via the radio or podcasts, and I've really slacked off the last couple of weeks, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on. So
over the holidays, I tuned out completely, and even paying more attention now than I was then. I'm not an everyday news consumer. It turns out all the important shit that happens, you can find that out all over the weekend. Like all following politics on a day-to-day basis is likely to give you an ulcer or a migraine.
Or both.
Yeah. But yeah, so Chris him and I were talking about this on the chat earlier, and he's like, what's up with impeachment? Like, what happened? Thought there was a process, basically, was what he was saying, that, he gets, they pass the articles of impeachment in the House, and then it goes to the Senate, and they have the trial. And the reason that the articles haven't been sent over is, because it's up to Nancy Pelosi to actually send them. I guess it's not like an automatic thing where I don't know exactly how it works on a bill. I guess I'd have to go back and watch my Schoolhouse Rock, but I believe it's just an automatic process. They don't have to pass a bill and then send it over. I mean, what would be the point of withholding it? And again, what would be and pertaining to impeachment, what would be the point in withholding that? Unless she thought that Nancy Pelosi, unless she thought that there's something to actually be gained from, she was using it as, not really a bargaining chip. She was just hoping that there would be an actual fair trial in the Senate, is what it comes down to. Because what McConnell was saying about impeachment was that that the Senate is in lockstep with the White House over impeachment. So it's kind of like having a judge and jury get together and go, well, we're going to have a trial, but we already know this guy's innocent, so this is just going to be a formality, which is not the definition of a fair trial.
Absolutely not, no.
So that's why she's been holding on to it, not actually sending the articles over. I don't know how long this can last, though, right? I mean, she has to send it over at some point. I mean, I guess she could not, but then what was all this for if she doesn't send the articles over?
Just from the art of politics, looking at it that way, very pragmatically, and trying my best not to insert myself on either side. Maybe give the solidify the Democratic base, give them, look what we did in spite of, being told we couldn't. So get out there, vote in a primary, vote in a general,
right.
We can get them a rallying cry, essentially.
They can do a couple more victory laps before this whole thing falls apart, because there's no way that that he's actually going to be convicted in the Senate.
No,
it's just not going to happen.
And I mean, to be honest, I'm not really I don't really know how I feel about the whole impeachment thing, because there's been 3 presidents in our history who've been impeached, and 2 of them have been from 4 of our last elected presidents. Is this going to become like a normal thing now? Like when one side loses and they can't stand the winner, they automatically, the countdown to impeachment starts? Because if you weren't paying attention to politics during the Clinton years, Clinton was hated. I mean, hated. Everything about him was hated by I guess at that point you couldn't call them Reaganites. It was Newt Gingrich and Rush Limbaugh leading the charge for Republicans in the 90s against Clinton. I mean, and basically it was, let's play a game of paint him into a corner, and eventually his inner lawyer will come out and he'll try to lawyer his way out of this shit, and he'll say something that'll trip himself up and we can impeach him. Okay. Ultimately, what happened? Was he removed from office? No, he finished his term. I mean, what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm worried about. Is this going to become like a recall election? Well, we're not happy with the results. Well, we have to, let's do a recall election, or with even though I'm not even going to pretend like I understand the intricacies and ins and outs of what's going on with Brexit, but I do know that they voted on it twice, and the second time, even more overwhelmingly than the first time, they said, yeah, we want to leave. Are they going to keep putting this out like, well, no, and until we get the result we want, we got to keep voting on this? That's not how the will of the people works, right or wrong. And that just doesn't set well with me that this could become a way to deal with losing to either side.
Right.
What I'm saying? That's why I said I'm trying to do my best to remove myself from all my political feelings and just look at it as pragmatically as possible.
Well, I guess I'm halfway there with you, Rich, because I understand the point that you're making. I generally agree with it, but the idea of operating a democracy is that this is a mutable thing, that we can go back and revisit laws and decide, do we still believe the same things? Are we still the same society? There's been a lot of ways that America has changed. Now, this is over the course of generations. This isn't like, we're not talking about not even from like in Brexit case, it's not even from one regime to the next. It's just, literally they're within a year of each other. I think they had votes on Brexit. And I don't know, like you get new information. New shit comes to light, dude, and I think that you should be given the opportunity to revisit and vote on things again. And it's like I agree with your premise, but I don't know how that translates into reality without trying to fix society in a certain state and not allow it to evolve. Where do you draw the line and say, if you vote on something once, you can't vote on it again for X number of years? Or you vote on something once and that's it, it's law and you can't change that? And there's no repealing of laws? Like, it's such a slippery slope.
Well, and it's the last thing I want is to add another layer of bullshit bureaucracy to the process. If I don't want to say, okay, well, if this vote happens and we want to, do a revote on it, for lack of a better way to put it, or we have to vet beyond what we already do the claim that we need to vote again on it. So let's add another layer of bullshit to the process, another way for politicians to grandstand and be blowhards on TV and the internet. Ultimately that is not what I want to happen, but I'm afraid that's what it is going to happen. I don't think this is going to go away. I think this is probably going to be the new normal for the more extreme candidates. I mean,
impeachment, you mean?
Impeachment or, recall elections, and like I said, I don't know exactly why they revoted on Brexit again. Like I said, I'm not 100%. It's hard enough trying to understand politics in this country. Sorry, you limeys got to figure that out on your own. I can't get involved in that shit. I just ain't got the energy, bro. Sorry. But I imagine it couldn't have been very good for their Labor Party, because their Labor Party took the biggest loss they've taken since 1939 in the re-election. So, and that when the Labor Party was the ones pushing for another, we have to have another vote on this. So obviously they misread the will of the people, or were trying to dictate the people's will to them, and the people said, no, fuck you. Because the quickest way usually to get a group of people not to do what you want them to do is tell them they have to do it.
Right.
No one likes to be told what they have to do. There's an art to, that's why there's a difference between bosses and leaders. A boss tells you, shut up, do your job, and you hate his ass. A leader convinces you that you're doing it for the greater good, and there's something more to it than just, pissing away my life an hour at a time for this piddly ass paycheck. I'm okay.
And he's also there in the trenches with you.
Ideally, yes, or at least there in the trenches enough to where you feel that person's constantly got your back, even if they're not within your line of sight. Yeah. So I mean, like I said, it's just my faith in the political system is at an all-time low. And I mean, like I've heard on XM radio. XM radio is really interesting as far as their political channels go, because they want to be everything to everybody. They have like the traditional Democrats, traditional Republicans, and they have the Trump channel, then they have the progressive channel, then they have this just straight no political leaning, almost like, an AP, just give you the facts. That's it. And there's no pundits giving their opinion. Then they have like the libertarian channel. And listening to the libertarian channel, they were talking about impeachment with Trump, and a lot of the people calling in, obviously these are, libertarians are not one big monolithical group that all believe the exact same thing. You have taxation is theft libertarians, and then you have libertarians who are civil libertarians, but still believe in some regulation of the market, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Taxation is a necessary evil to society, especially one our size. And then you have everything in between. But the one thing a lot of them were saying that called and said, we voted for Trump in 2016, was we didn't do it because we thought he would change the system. What we were trying to do was inject the system with a virus that would kill the system. And I'm like, is that, I mean, I get where they're coming from, but I mean, can you say that they've been successful? Because I think that the only thing that,
No.
I mean, the fact that you have so many people saying my faith in the political system and our political leaders is at an all-time low is if that's what they were aiming for, I guess that means they won. But ultimately, I don't see how that helped their cause as libertarians, because I don't see libertarians rising up to fill the void whatsoever. It's the extremists, that are rising up and filling the void. As the people more in the middle and the frustrated and exhausted majority just kind of like check out and drop out and go, I'm done. I can't keep doing this shit. The extremists fill that void. So,
well, Trump, I don't agree with this idea of Trump being a virus, meaning that I wouldn't vote for somebody based on that idea, even if they were saying things that I agreed with. It, if I thought that it was because they were going to destroy the system, and that's, first of all, it's a little extreme. But that if that was their plan, it all blew up in their face. You might be able to get me on board with the idea that Trump is not a virus, but an inoculation against future disease. But the other side has failed on that as well. Not to keep harping on the thing that I was talking about earlier, but my biggest beef with liberals is that they're not trying to roll back the powers of the presidency in general. As soon as, if you thought that Trump was dangerous and then he actually does get into the office, then you should be focusing on campaign reform, election reform, and restraining the powers of the presidency. Not because of Trump, but because Trump is making you realize that our elections are fucked and the president has too much power. Now, these are things that were true, that have been true for a long time, way before Trump. This was true when Obama got elected. This is true when both Bushes got elected, Clinton, Reagan, everybody going back. We've continually ceded more and more power to the presidency, and we're not rolling it back. The perfect example is, God damn it, what do they call them? When he signs to the binder and holds it up for everyone to see.
executive orders.
Executive order. I always want to call it a presidential decree. But yeah, so executive orders are a perfect example. This is something that, is Trump the first one to use executive orders? Absolutely not. He's not even the one to use them the most. But he's using them for things that are, well, let's just say he's using them for things that liberals don't agree with, right? But instead of realizing that maybe this is too much unilateral power to give one person, they go, this is too much unilateral power to give Trump. And that's if we don't stop this, then we are going to have this back and forth that might end up being like you're saying. Is this going to be the new normal of, we don't like your guy, we're going to try and impeach him, or girl? And I think that's the only way you stop that, is by restraining the powers of the presidency. Because if the only way you can continually be making these claims of impeachment is because the president is dangerous, right? He's at risk of some sort. He's unstable. He or she, they are unstable, are anti-democratic, or whatever. But yeah, the answer isn't it's certainly not to just try and volley back and forth with this impeachment thing, or recalls and revotes and all this stuff too. It's all applies. It's to actually restrain the power so that we don't have to worry about it. So we can actually weather this out. So we can go, okay, well, we don't agree with this person. We think that they're dangerous, that their policies are dangerous, or just immoral or anti-democratic or whatever, but we can weather this. But, instead with the executive orders, well, it's bad that, Trump has executive orders on immigration, and and trade and environmental regulations and all kinds of stuff. But when our guy gets into power, he's going to make executive orders on all the stuff that you love, like pot and puppies and blowjobs. That does nothing. That doesn't help the situation. The situation is the president has too much power, regardless of whether it's Trump or not. And I think that's the only answer is to stop this back and forth of like one president comes in, changes a bunch of stuff, and the next president comes in and puts the furniture back where it was.
I think one of the scariest things to come in since 2016, because, and bear with me, because once politicians figure out they're able to do something, to use certain tactics to get something done, they're going to try to use them tactics on other things they want to get done. And seeing how easily, since 2016, politicians have basically circumvented the Supreme Court on abortion and severely restricted it, and done so with like hardly any resistance to it, is kind of scary. It's like, well, wait, what? Well, we're not banning it, but or like Texas, for example. No, we haven't banned abortion. We're Texas, and if you can go to one of the 6 doctors in Texas that can still give you an abortion legally, then yeah, you can have an abortion. Do you realize how fucking big Texas is?
Yeah.
6 doctors in Texas? You know what I'm saying? If you had cancer in Rhode Island and there was only 6 doctors that could treat you, you'd be pissed that you had to travel that far to get treated. I mean, so think about that. And then this fetal heartbeat shit. Well, you have to have an ultrasound. You have to see your baby before you. We've all seen an ultrasound. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why I would make a horrible
kill
woman.
Your kid, but you're going to have to be a total heartless bitch, and we're going to have to watch you.
Yeah,
we're going to look right at you while you heartlessly make the decision to kill that thing living inside you.
I'd be a horrible woman because I'd be like, I got to see a picture of it? Okay, cool. Okay, now, when you abort it, can you keep the picture up? And can you take a picture of that so I can send that out as my Christmas card?
Can I watch while you suck it out?
Yeah, and they're going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, well, fuck you. If you're going to turn me into a monster, I might as well embrace the darkness, right? Shit,
Look, I'm not going to make this into an actual person. So all it is right now to me is like, it's like an infected tooth. It just needs to be yanked out.
This isn't going to turn into an actual person, so it's either going to look like a stewed tomato or a Jackson Pollock photo painting by the time we're done. Either way, it's a modern art masterpiece. So let's get on with this, okay? But yeah, I mean, look, obviously I'm pro-choice, if you couldn't tell. I have certain feelings about certain things about abortion, but ultimately, if you choose to abort your child, that's on you. That's a medical procedure between you and your doctor. Maybe it's not fair to the father who's like, but I want the kid. Yeah, well, you know what? Life isn't fair, and this is one of those times that you just got to take that L and move on. All right, that's all there is to it.
Yeah,
shit isn't fair all the time, and it's not going to be. And stop expecting it to be, and you'll be much happier. But like I said, it worries me because it's like, okay, yes, it doesn't affect me ultimately. I can't, physically have an abortion, so no right is being taken away from me. But if I sit here mute and don't say anything and don't point out that, look at these politicians circumvent the laws that we've put into place to protect a woman's right to choose, what is going to be the next thing they circumvent the laws around to take away our rights? Because believe me,
they came from my vagina, and I said nothing because I didn't have one.
Yeah. I mean,
but
it's
next week it's going to be the testicles. Guess what? You got 2 of those.
Yeah. What do you need to? Wait, you were born with 2 nuts? You only need 1. So which one goes? Grady or Lamont? It's like, oh, come on, man. Fred's used to living with these two nutbags. Can we just keep them with all together? No? All right.
all living in the junkyard.
But, I mean, seriously, and just because your guy is in office and it's happening on his watch, and the politicians who happen to share the same letter by their name as the president that's in office is now doing this. Don't think that when your guy is not in office that is going to stop all of a sudden, like you said. In fact, you're giving the other side not just ammo but motivation to do the same thing to you once they get the chance to.
Yeah.
You're creating a situation of who can out-petty the other person. You're going to do this? Okay, well, guess what? We are coming for your guns. We're going house to house. We are sending in the National Guard to collect them. What are you going to do? Or we are, whatever the fuck it may be. I can't even guess at this point. We are coming for your Big Macs. I don't know what the fuck. I don't. I think really the only thing that would cause people in this country to rise up is if they took away Wi-Fi and coffee. Because everything else has been declared bad for us, and enough people just accept it. They just, booze is bad for you, cigarettes are bad for you, marijuana's bad for you, vaping's bad for you. You have to give us that coffee, and you got to give up your Wi-Fi. No, that's World War. That's Revolution Part 2 right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see that they actually banned some of the flavored vapes. The president did.
Oh yeah,
he did. Yeah. Which is the most nonsensical ban ever, right? So they banned fruit flavors that are sold in pods, right? The pre-made, you just buy it and screw it into your device and vape it, or maybe not even screw it into anything. You would probably just all in one device, just disposable. And it solves absolutely nothing, right? Because if the problem is flavors, if it's fruit flavors, and that's your problem because kids are getting them, and you think for some reason that only kids like fruit flavors, but okay, then that doesn't stop kids from getting their hands on fruit flavored vapes. They just have to buy a mod. And if they're going to be vaping a lot, they're probably just it's better off to buy a mod anyway. Like regular Juul vapors, I don't understand. I just figure that those are hobbyists, right? If you're going to be seriously vaping
you buy
to replace a smoking habit, then you're going to go for the most efficient way. And that's not going to be going through, I don't know how long a Juul pod lasts, but I imagine I would pump through one of those a day, considering how big they look.
God, easily. And they're not cheap either.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're willing to build your own coils, which it doesn't take all that long to learn.
No.
And refill your own juice and recharge your mod. Yeah, the initial setup cost may cost you, somewhere between $50 and $100.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking pennies on the day, whereas, almost $8 for a pack of cigarettes now.
Right. You're talking about a habit, if you're strong at it, is probably a few bucks a day. And that's if you're heavy, like big clouds, going through a lot of juice. I think if you're just average like I am, buy a 60 milliliter bottle. I got this one today for $13. So it lasts me more than a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyways, I got off track. So banning the flavored pods is nothing because they can still get their hands on the flavor. And it also does nothing because part of this ban was twofold, right? There was kids are getting it because it tastes good. And also there's these actual people getting injured, lung illnesses and deaths from these. They're not pods. I know, Juul has pods. That's what they call them, right? A Juul pod.
Yeah.
What am I actually talking about here?
Cartridges.
A cartridge. Yes, thank you. That's the word. So the problem with people getting sick and some of them even dying were from buying cartridges. So if you're going after the cartridges, then go after the cartridges, right? I'm not saying that I hope you do, but if you're trying to logically tackle this problem, then why is it only the fruit-flavored cartridges that are bad? Well, so if cartridges are the problem, why can they still sell nicotine-flavored, or nicotine, but cigarette, like cigarette-type flavored ones, menthol, I guess mint.
Well, and then to make matters even more complicated and ridiculous in their response to it is the overwhelming majority of the people getting sick and dying were because they were buying like homemade or off-brand cartridges with shit in there that no vape juice company in their right mind would ever put in their products, because killing your fucking base off like quickly is not a good way to keep repeat customers.
Right.
It's just not. Like, and people go, well, cigarettes kill people. Yeah, but you can smoke a carton a week for 2 years, and your chances of getting lung cancer in those 2 years and dying are like in the single digit percentage.
Yeah,
easily.
I mean, yeah. So the bad pods with the vitamin E acetate that they put in there to thin out, and this was also not just in black market products, but these are all THC based black market products. It's an actual problem. But the response, the two things that they did to respond to this, and one of them was probably something that they were thinking about for a long time anyways, but that was raising the age for nicotine products. You have to be 21 to buy them. That and the vaping ban on flavored pods, not only do they not tackle the problem directly, they actually will make the problem worse, no question. Because now you actually have kids who, kids, they're 18, right? They're going to be considered adults. They can vote, they can die in wars, they're adults. So from 18 to 21, they're going to have to go to the black market now to get something. So they're actually creating more of a market for these dangerous, unregulated devices to be out there and be sold.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can tell you for a fact right now, the raising the age to 21 didn't do shit as far as, I guess it made some parents feel good. Yeah. Like, well, my kid won't be able to get cigarettes or vape products now. And I guess these parents have early onset Alzheimer's because they don't remember ever getting beer or cigarettes underage. Right. And apparently they never smoked weed at all when they were kids, back before it was legal, even like medical marijuana. Like, it's just, all right, you're putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, but you think you're doing something? Okay. And of course, it's always wrapped up in for the children.
Yeah.
Well, 21-year-olds aren't children. 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds and 18-year-olds aren't children. Like you pointed out, they're adults.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing on this for me is let's just draw the line and keep it constant. Let's not try and decide, well, you're mature enough to make these decisions, but not mature enough to make those decisions. The two that really stick out is you can walk into a recruiter's office and sign a piece of paper and sign away the next 4 years of your life to where you no longer have the rights of a citizen of this country. You fall under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. You are literally property of the United States government for the next 4 years. At 18, you can do that. And the people that want to lower the voting age to 16. So wait a minute. You trust 16-year-olds to guide the country and to make a decision about the next 4 years of their life, basically signing over to indentured servitude to the United States government, but you don't trust them to have a drink or a smoke? Yeah.
How does that work?
Just manage their own health in general.
Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah, it doesn't. You can't square that circle.
But once again, this is. I was telling a friend of mine, he watches, him and his family watch, broadcast television news, and I'm around them a lot more now. Ones? And yeah, and I'm like, I'm just watching it, and I'm like, this is such horse shit. This is like everything's clickbait but it's just broadcast to you as news. Like at least when I see clickbait, I'm like, top 10 reasons or top 10 things about Darth Vader's suit you didn't know. Well, that's clickbait. I know what that is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But this is clickbait as news. And it's just fear, be scared of everything, fear. And these people are completely ignorant of these things, and they're getting their information from people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're just reading what's on their teleprompter. And I'm just amazed. I'm just like, and you can't really like try to explain anything to them. You have to just let them kind of figure it out for themselves. You know, and that's what drove this entire thing. Oh, children are dying from vaping. Okay, well, I guess if you want to be reductionist as fuck, yeah, sure, that's exactly what's happening. But you're leaving out a lot of the details. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like saying that Germany was just stuffing random people into ovens in the late 30s and early 40s. Like, there's a little bit more to it than that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
right, but it's also they park it in the idea of protecting people, right? There's actual deaths that are happening. We can't one death is too many from vaping. Okay, what about bars of soap? How many deaths from bars of soap are too many? Is one death from a bar of soap? One person drops the soap, slips on it, knocks their head on the faucet, dead. Is that one too many? Because that happens a lot.
There's going to be a politician that's going to have someone in their crew listen to this, and they're going to be like, I got an idea from this podcast. We have to regulate that all soap now is soap on a rope.
Yeah.
Just because of what you just said. For the children.
I mean, really, that's one of the first things that you have to look at. Like, okay, we're talking about deaths. I know this sounds callous, and yes, one is too many, especially if you happen, to be close to that person. But really, how many are we talking about? Because that is a factor. It's a factor in everything. That all the freedoms and all the devices that we use, and even going back to just building infrastructure and bridges and trains. Like, how many deaths were too many for the railroad to go across the U.S.?
Oh, God.
There was no end to it, right? And it was acceptable loss. So
you don't even have to go back that far. Just look at space exploration.
Yeah.
I mean, we had astronauts burn up on the pad, and we were like, yeah, that's sad. Let's have a funeral. We'll lay them in state, but we got to keep pushing on. We had the Challenger explode. That grounded the shuttle for fucking almost a decade, didn't it? I mean, wasn't it like 7 years, 8 years, something before that we had the next shuttle mission?
It sounds like that, right? I think it was around 7.
I mean, that would have been unheard of during the space race in the 60s. That would have been just conceding. I mean, and God knows how many people died with the Russian space program. We may never know the true number. The numbers they release are the ones they want the public to know. You know what I'm saying? Who knows how many died that we don't know about? So yeah, it's. And the other thing is, it's like these same people. These people are dying from vaping, and people are dying from this. And okay, cool. Do you worry about this, like with random drone strikes that we just seem to just throw at other countries just for shits and giggles? Like the collateral damage. I never hear anyone talk about like, oh, maybe we should stop these drone strikes. And usually, by the way, the same people that historically, the same people who are usually for banning anything, aka the fun police, are usually in firm support of the death penalty. And now that DNA has become as prominent as it has, and we found out that whoops, we've actually killed a lot of innocent people, I don't see no tears shed for them. I don't even see them changing their fucking profile pic on social media for them, or sending out thoughts and prayers. But 2 kids die from some bathtub made THC cartridge that some douchebag put out, and okay, we gotta change everything about everything because oh shit,
right?
But scare tactics.
But it wasn't just that, right? It was we really hate this anyway, and we want it to go away. And now here we've got some ammo to actually try and kill this thing.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, what did they do? We're gonna try to maybe like not mortally wound it, but give it like a survivable wound. But at the same time, they can't kill it because ultimately too much money's made off of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like smoking. You know, why don't they just ban smoking? Do you know how much money that would cost the government? Do you know how many corporations would that would start a civil war? It would be corporations versus the government. It would be R.J. Reynolds' personal army versus the government. You know, seriously. All those executives that lost their corner office would fucking strap up. Believe me, because they'd be like, I'm not qualified to do anything but shill cigarettes to people. I'm not getting a real job. Get the fuck out of here. Shit. There's only so many lobbyist jobs available.
Right. Well, that's the other thing is, a lot of campaign funds would dry up pretty quick too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think this is they've just grazed it. Right. It's not going to do any lasting damage. You know, like I said, most of the pod vapors are the Juul users. They're just recreationally using it to like look cool, or you know, when they're hanging out with people. There's no way. I mean, first of all, if a teenager has an actual nicotine addiction and is feeding it with Juuls, where do they get their fucking money for all these Juuls? But
yeah,
it's not. You might do damage to Juul because you know both banning the flavors in the Juul pods and raising the age to 21 must have sent Juul stock like crashing. Not that they don't have. I can't remember what company it is, but they do have majority ownership of like. You know, Marlboro or one of those companies actually owns them. But yeah, the rest of us who are addicted to nicotine and need this shit are going to keep on going. Whatever way, you know, unless they actually manage to eradicate all vaping products, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to go away.
Well, I mean, you know, they sent Tommy Chung to prison for selling bongs. And people were like, okay, so we can't buy bongs? Give me an apple, a screwdriver, and a 10 millimeter socket. And I'll be able to smoke something out of it. Like ultimately, like Chris Rock says, people want their high. They're going to find a way.
How does going after paraphernalia help? Like the problem is that you bought the bong and it's just been sitting there and you're like, I can't not smoke something out of it. I bought this beautiful bong, so I guess I'm going to have to start smoking weed.
Well, one of the things I do find funny is I was in a local gas station, and for people not to know, like it's official on the first of the year. Like recreational weed is pretty much full go here in the state of Michigan. And, you know, before the first, you'd go into gas stations and they'd have, you know, bongs or pipes, and it would say, you know, for tobacco use only.
Right.
Because they legally had to say that. You know, there was head shop, even in Florida, there was head shops on the beach in Daytona Beach. And I would, you know, if you walked in and you said, hey, can I see that bong? They'd ask you to leave. And you'd have to walk out.
Tobacco water pipe.
Yes, I'd like to see that tobacco water pipe right there, please. And like I went in, and the signs are still up for tobacco use only, and I'm like, shouldn't you change those? And they're like, yeah, we're just keeping our bases covered just in case. Yeah. I'm like, really, dude? There is a dispensary within a stone's throw of where we're standing, and you're worried that you're going to get busted for this? And they're like, we're a lot easier to get busted than a dispensary. Okay, whatever. You run the place. You know.
Sure, but they've got nothing to lose anyway. I mean, it's not like somebody would be confused. Like I was shopping for a pipe, but that one says tobacco use only. So I guess you guys don't have any. See you later.
My favorite one is when the crack pipes say tobacco use only. I'm like, who the fuck is smoking tobacco out of that thing? That's a crack pipe. That's a.
Hey. No, that's it's for smoking aspirin.
Oh yeah, there we go. I see. I forgot the new smokable aspirin they got. Yeah,
it hits you right away.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net.
I earned a bachelor's degree in hospitality management. I managed a restaurant for a while and enjoyed helping others, but I wanted a different way to serve. Then I discovered the Felician Way and enrolled in Felician University's accelerated nursing program. Felician ABSN is offered in 2 formats, a 16-month hybrid program and a 19-month on-ground program. Plus, Felician University provides a values-based education, which is important to me. Discover the Felician Way. To learn more, search Felician ABSN.
Electrical pros, the Home Depot can help you put safety first with a 4-pack of Kidde FireX hardwire smoke detectors for just $39.97. Order these interconnected smoke alarms online and you put safety first. And that's followed by $10 savings on each pack, free delivery, and peace of mind knowing you got the right brand for fire safety. See? Put safety first and everything else follows when you order a 4-pack of Kidde smoke detectors for just $39.97. Only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. U.S. only.
ChristopherMedia.net. Unregimented.
Well, before we go, there's at least one subject we got to touch on because, Jesus Christ, 7-8 weeks, whatever it was we missed, almost 2 months.
Yeah,
we missed a lot of fucking movies and television shows that have came out or wrapped up.
Yeah, the whole holiday season of movies and TV.
I mean,
the biggest one certainly being Star Wars, right? You've seen Rise of the Skywalker, I take it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just like, I'm so glad that this Skywalker saga is done with.
Yeah.
Let's just move on because I don't even expect them to make sense anymore because the Force Awakens was set up. The Last Jedi threw half of what the Force Awakens set up out the window. The Rise of Skywalker comes out and spends not the first, but probably 30 minutes total retconning almost shit in The Last Jedi.
Right. Well, before we get too deep into this, though, because you and I grew up with these movies, right? And, I was going to say they mean something, but they do mean something, right? It's not that deep, but they do mean something to us, right? It's part of our childhood. We're attached to these movies. And, but also, even the best of the Star Wars movies, we could find fault with. So what's your general impression before we start dissecting this?
You're talking about of the new one?
Of Rise of the Skywalker, you walked out of the theater and you thought to yourself, what? That's a perfect answer. I'll take it.
I felt like I'm like, was the movie on 1.25 speed? And did someone slip me low grade acid? Because I was swearing, I was like, is this picking up plot threads that I don't remember? No, that they're just coming up with shit out of thin air. Okay.
Right.
And then there was a couple things I was like,
with a scroll that like sets up 3 different things and it basically just says, okay, look, none of that shit happened last movie. Here's what's really going on. Oh, and the scroll was, here's the movie I would have made, and if I did all 3 of them. This is what would have happened in the middle movie if it was a J.J. Abrams trilogy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, the behind the scenes stuff, it was set up to where J.J. Abrams was going to direct the first sequel movie, Rian Johnson the second, and another director was going to direct the third. That director that was signed on for what eventually became The Rise of Skywalker saw the first cut of The Last Jedi and said, I'm out. Like, he walked away from Disney. He's like, you can't expect me to say that should have been the third movie in the trilogy. That feels like the conclusion of a trilogy, and it's the second movie.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, to me, these movies are mixed up. The Force Awakens can stay where it's at, but the training that Rey goes through in The Rise of Skywalker should have been in The Force Awakens.
Right.
Then The Force, then you could have The Rise of Skywalker, then The Last Jedi. Because it was like, they just felt out of place, and you could tell that there was literally no, like with the Marvel movies, you got to get from point A to point B. We don't care what you do between point A and point B, but at the end, at the beginning and the end, these things have to be set up.
Yeah.
You can't go and kill Iron Man and Iron Man 2 because we need them for later this summer in the Avengers. You can't do this because we need this for this. That type shit. And you could, some people would argue that kind of handcuffs the storytelling. But I mean, this movie was almost stream of consciousness storytelling.
Right.
Like this made William Burroughs go, God damn, as far as stream of consciousness shit at sometimes. I was just literally like, did they throw darts at a board and just call it a script? I mean, it felt, what it really felt like? It felt like watching a video game.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Because in video games, usually you start the game and you have to go here and to get this item, and this item leads you to there where you get this item, and this item leads you to there to get to this item. And it's a video game, so it's interactive, so you're really not questioning the validity of the items that you're finding, right? Like whether they're practical or not. But like when you see the stars of the movie get sucked into quicksand that fall into a tunnel that a giant worm killed a Sith assassin, and they pull his knife out, and you just happen to hold the knife up at the right spot, looking at the right spot on the horizon, and that points to you where to go. I'm like, okay, look, they explain this better in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, you had to do a little bit of research on what hole to stick the staff of Ra in. You know what I'm saying? For the sun to come through and point. Like, there was something to it. Like, they wanted to take the essence of that without earning it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a perfect analogy because in Raiders it was like a puzzle to be solved, where this was a puzzle, but they didn't solve it. They just stumbled into it.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, because I've been rather harsh on the new movies, to be fair, things I liked, goes without saying, you drop almost $400 million into a movie, it better look good. It looks good. It looked good. You know what I'm saying? You could see where money was spent. Two, I like the fact that Rey, for the first time, actually seemed to have a story arc. She seemed to doubt herself. She seemed to have a little bit of the hero's journey instead of just knowing how to pilot and fix the Millennium Falcon better than Han Solo out of nowhere.
I agree with you. And I thought that Daisy Ridley was fantastic in this movie. That she got so much charm and she's so much fun to watch. And she was kind of blah in the other movies.
Yeah, this is the first time I actually was like, I actually like her character, not as, she's the quote unquote good guy. So I like the good guys because that's what you're supposed to do, right? It was like, there's something there, and I think,
well,
that was it was just a wasted opportunity.
Like I rooted for Luke, but I loved Han.
Han was Luke, shit.
Luke was okay.
Well, this is the conversation me and my friends had when the prequel movies were coming out, 20 years or so ago. Is that when the original movies were coming out and we were kids, there were three people that everyone wanted to be: either Han Solo, Darth Vader, or Boba Fett.
Yep. So
when we played Star Wars, that's who the people were fighting over to be. Then the prequel trilogies come out, and it, with all their problems, it actually made it cool to be a Jedi because before, being a Jedi meant you had to be either an old man with one foot in the grave in God's waiting room or
a dweeb.
Yeah. Like Luke Skywalker was a pussy. I mean, I'm sorry, like, even in Return of the Jedi, when he was supposed to be all badass, it was like, no, it's still Mark Hamill. I mean, great voice actor.
Yeah.
Seems like a really cool guy, really passionate, really cool with the fan base. Not a badass, it's just all there is to it.
Mm-hmm.
Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, I was like, now those are Jedis that you want to kick ass and then go have, a couple drinks with afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
He's cool guys. So
who are those characters for this new trilogy then? That's a good question.
I mean, I don't think Hux or Kylo could handle their booze. So to see those two get drunk in the same room, there'd be a good fight to break out, maybe. You know what I'm saying? As far as new characters, I will say this. I liked Finn better in this movie than I did the previous movie. I thought he got done dirty.
Yeah.
I thought that they kind of tacked that whole Casino Planet thing on with him and what was her name? Rose in the movie?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. To give him a little bit something more to do, where I'm like, why are you splitting up the group? Why, keep the group together? This is the third movie, and this is the first time the group's really been together. So that's why I was like, it felt like this is the first time we're really seeing the group dynamic. Like Poe and Finn, they had a little, chemistry in the first movie. Then they're split up for the whole second movie. And Poe can't do anything right in the second movie. And Finn didn't really have much chemistry with Rose. And then you think Finn's going to sacrifice himself to save the rebellion. And you're like, well, I guess they're giving him a story arc. And at the last minute, here comes Rose and T-bones him and goes, we're not going to win by killing what we love. Or whatever the fuck the line was. And I was like, what? He was about to save everybody. Now but 13 of you are going to die. You can literally fit the rebellion on the Millennium Falcon at the end of that movie. Because she stopped him from pulling a Independence Day, going into the laser and blowing it up, and taking out the First Order's way of taking out the rebellion on that planet. And I'm just like, ugh. So I liked him. I liked Rey in this movie. I think she was cooler in this movie. I mean, I think it's like, I got to be honest with you. The prequels, for like all their faults, had the best lightsaber battles.
Yeah.
These lightsaber battles in these movies were highly stylized, but they were not on par with the lightsaber battles in the prequels. And sadly, when Samuel L. Jackson is the weakest part of a lightsaber battle, you know what I'm saying? Like, that battle with him and the Emperor was weak. You go back and watch, it's bad. You can tell it's two very old guys and a bunch of quick edits because they're not putting in the hours of work like Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor did to get the choreography down.
Right.
It's just not happening.
Well, I thought, Poe's story was kind of weird. Like I don't understand why he got to be a general at the end. I mean, I understand that they needed a new general because Leia got poochied, and midway through the movie said, "I have to go back to my home planet now."
And that's another thing. In these new movies, apparently, you can force so hard you die. I'm just like, huh? That's a thing? Okay. All right.
But, I really liked Finn in this movie too, in the Rise of the Skywalker movie, but they didn't really finish his story.
No, and
they even set it up.
Thank you. I got to tell you something. You talking about that when he said that to Rey?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about that. I agree with you. That was another thing that they left hanging, but that I almost appreciated that. I think that's one of those story devices where your resolution is never really going to pay off. So it's kind of best to leave it, unseen or unsaid.
Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is what was the one chick, the black chick with the crazy hair that was riding the
Oh, I can't remember her character's name, but she's supposed to be heavily implied Lando's daughter.
Oh, was she? I don't know. I didn't catch that, but she was an ex-trooper, right?
Yeah, they explained how they got stormtroopers after the clone armies started dying off. Basically, it was they kidnapped children and brainwashed them to be stormtroopers.
Right. And then they end up being part of the rebellion, and that's a nice part of the story. I liked it in general, but obviously that's Finn's story as well.
Yeah.
And when they meet, they're just like, "Oh yeah, you too? Hey, that's cool," and that's it. And it doesn't. I mean, that's the major part of Finn's story. Finn's story is about he's really the ultimate rebel. You know, like he was basically a slave and has to rebel against that. You know, it's very different for a slave to rebel than a free person to rebel.
Yeah, and the fact that he's like in this big, huge Star Wars universe where the first two movies are supposed to take place over like a week to 10 days. Which it makes it even crazier with everything that happens in the first two movies, but whatever. But there's supposed to be like years between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. So let's say it's 3.5 years total, right? He's been wandering around the universe for 3.5 years, and he's never met anyone else who's in his situation. He finally meets someone who is, and he's like, cool.
Right, and that should have been his moment. That should have been his resolution. You know, the way Mark Bernardin, who does the what they now call Fat Man Beyond, because they were calling it Fat Man on Batman, but it was getting kind of big, and they were actually selling tickets to the event, and decided to, before the notoriously litigious DC Comics, or, you know, their daddy, which I guess would be AT&T, right? Decides to sue him. They went ahead and changed the name. But anyway, they were talking about this. He had the perfect resolution for that scene, and it was real simple. And I don't remember exactly how he put it, but all that chick has to say, the other ex-trooper has to say is, well, we heard about you.
Wow.
You know, we heard about the legend of this guy who made it out, who escaped from the evil empire and fought with the rebels. And that was our inspiration. And that ties up Finn's story perfectly.
And it is very Star Wars cyclical, because during the Force Awakens, you know, where they're like, "Wait, are you the Han Solo?" And hey, he's like, "Yes, it's all true. The Force, Jedis, it's all true." You know, and they're like, "Oh, these are things we've heard, even though they only happened 25 years before." Somehow it's, I guess, in the outer rim, it seemed 25 years must be like 120 years or something to them, because they're like, "Oh, we've heard about these legends, these myths." You know, it's like, shit, it was 25 years ago. Calm down.
In the Skywalker saga, we're not necessarily following the most interesting characters. We are following these characters because these are the important characters to what happens in this universe. These are the key players. And to not give Finn that credit as being a key player, I mean, what is his ultimate story? Poe gets to be a fucking general. Rey gets to be all the Jedis in one. Finn gets to hug them both. I don't know what the fuck he gets. Like, yeah,
he gets to ride he gets to ride a horse on a Star Destroyer.
Right. I mean, I would have been happy if they just got the full laid.
You like throw him a Twi'lek or something. Well, here's a green bitch. It was good enough for Captain Kirk. It's good enough for you, buddy.
And all these people who are complaining that Rose Tico got done dirty in this movie, fuck you, Finn got done dirty in this movie. Rose Tico didn't deserve shit. Rose Tico is Rian Johnson's character. This movie has to wrap up our three main characters from this movie and everybody else from all the other movies, right? Where do you fit in a story to wrap up Rose Tico, and why does she deserve an ending like she's some sort of major character? There are plenty of other, side characters that show up in Star Wars that never get a resolution because they're just that.
Absolutely.
They're side characters. And Rose Tico is just a side character.
Admiral Akbar has one of the most iconic lines in the original trilogy. It's turned into... It's the line that launched a million memes with "It's a trap." And they unceremoniously killed him off in The Last Jedi and didn't even comment on it. That's what happens in Star Wars. Because like you said, Star Wars isn't about the bigger universe. It's about the key people in this storyline. And the common thread is, well, apparently now the common thread is the Emperor. Because this is something that I found out just a couple days ago, listening to a podcast that Disney had released in the comic book. So that means it's canon because it's the Disney Star Wars.
Yeah, it's the new Marvel released Star Wars comics that you're talking about, right? Yeah.
That the Emperor created Anakin through the Force in his mother. And so he tells Anakin after he's become Vader before he becomes Vader, that like during that scene, like he during that time period, he explains it to him, and he's like, so essentially, I'm your father. Okay, so there would be no Skywalker timeline or no Skywalker bloodline if the Emperor hadn't created him. Which, if you extrapolate from that, what's going on at the end of this movie. Cue the banjo music when Poe or not Poe, but Rey and Kylo make out,
right?
Because they're cousins. Like there's which, by the way, have you heard? First of all, do you know what shippers are?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. I found this out once again through another podcast. Apparently, these are the Star Wars fans who are losing their mind. Apparently, every time a Star Wars movie comes out, a group of people who are Star Wars fans has to lose their mind anymore. And the Reylos, as they're called, the Reylo shippers, are losing their minds. And these are people who write fan fiction and do fan art of Kylo and Rey together as a couple.
Yeah, really? Because even after seeing them kiss, I'm like, no, they make a bad couple. Did you think that kiss was romantic?
No. There was no... There was more like... And it was weird chemistry in the last movie when they were doing the Force Skyping together and he had his shirt off.
Right.
And she like gave him the quick look over, but then like, hey, his eyes are up here. I better, But she literally, you see her eyes like do the quick dart down like, oh, okay. And it's like,
right.
It's kind of creepy then, but then that kiss, I'm like, why are they making out? But,
my thing on the kiss was, I didn't look at it as some kind of resolution to their relationship. That was just a physical manifestation of the actual transference of life from Kylo to Rey, because one of the better things that J.J. Abrams accomplishes in this movie is the connection between those two characters. Because not only do you have those scenes, which work really well for me, where they exist in the same reality, even though they're in two physical separate locations, to the point where they can even interact. And there's a lot of other little things where, like, when they're in scenes together and their breathing is synced up. And so we know that the Force creates this, like, connection between people, right? And that these two are, like, really... not only just really strong examples of Force carrying beings, but ones that seem almost more powerful when they're together. And the idea that, because at least that's how I saw it. I mean, Rey was going to die. Kylo wasn't. He gave his life to her. He kisses her, and then she's alive, and he's dead. Like, he literally gave his life to her. And the kiss was used as a representation because what else do you have to represent the Force in Star Wars?
I'm going to give you a really firm hug.
Right. Like, you can't use your lightsaber for that. And it would look really weird if I, like, shot you with lightning. So...
Yeah, I'm clear. Force lightning you back to life.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Kickstart My Heart starts playing by Motley Crue. And you see, and of course, it's Poe blasting it as he comes in. He's like, "Yeah, what's up, bro?" Like, I knew he was a dude, bro. I knew it. But no,
the idea that those two, you were talking about shippers, though.
Yeah. So apparently, like, these people are really, really upset that Kylo dies, and they don't end up ultimately together to the point where these are the crew going on Twitter and social media and, like, I could kill J.J. Abrams. I want to stab him with a lightsaber and blah, 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 blah. And the Force has betrayed me and boycott Disney. And I'm like, people. First of all, I take them about as serious as the people that were, like, pissed off. Ryan Johnson raped my childhood. He needs to be killed. I take them. 99.9% of those people are talking shit, and then you do have the actual ones you should worry about. But they're a very small percentage. But 100% of the people that post that shit need to get a fucking life and a hobby. Seriously. I understand being consumed with something in pop culture, especially when you're younger, especially if you're an outsider, and it comes at the right time in your life and it hits you at the right moment. I get it. But ultimately, these are just fucking movies. And I'm really gonna pop your bubble. These are movies put out to do one thing. First and foremost, make a profit. Second, hopefully you're entertained.
Yeah.
Believe me, Disney ain't doing this for out of the kindness of their heart. They're not making these movies. If they don't turn a profit, they will stop making these movies. Trust me.
Oh yeah. My thing on the shippers, though, this isn't really anything new. It's just another thing that gets poisoned by the flow of information. So, meaning that, not only do they have a voice and a platform to speak their opinion, but also they have, through that same platform, the voices of many other people telling them that they're wrong and stupid, so they feel like they have something to defend. But shipping in general, this goes way back. I mean, look at old X-Men and New Mutants comics with Kitty Pryde and Magic being roommates, and the implied relationship that Chris Claremont put on the paper there that a lot of people read into. But because it was never explicitly said, there's still a lot of people to this day that will deny that there was anything there between them. I think anybody who's read that shit can kind of understand that, like, Chris Claremont wanted some lesbians in his comic, but Marvel wouldn't let him. So they had some pillow fights in their underwear.
I was going to say, wait a minute. Magic is Colossus' little sister, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because there was some, like, weird age-inappropriate sexual tension at times between Colossus and Kitty Pryde. So, did I miss something? Is Kitty Pryde just kind of like? Is her thing like that? She's like pansexual or bisexual now in the comic books. Is she even like? Is that what her character is? Because
she hasn't. That's been heavily implied, especially more so recently. But I think what happened in the comics. I don't remember. When did Kitty Pryde and Colossus's relationship start?
He went with. It was Professor X, Jean Grey, him, and Wolverine that went to her family's house to go to get her family to let her go to the school. And when they went out and Professor X,
that was early on that little spark started, huh?
Yeah, this was the Dark Phoenix. This was during the Dark Phoenix saga. This is like late 70s. And when Professor X stayed back, they went out to go to it wasn't a restaurant. It was like, I don't know, like go get ice cream or some shit, something like that. And her and Colossus started talking, and then they got attacked, and et cetera, et cetera. And she used her powers to break them out from the Hellfire Club. And then eventually she did join. And I remember reading it as a kid going, is this a big brother, little brother relationship? But it seems like there's a little something more to it here. But like they never took it anywhere because, I mean, I think she was like 13 in her first appearance, and he would have been like 18, 19. And
well, I remember it being, she would be a little flirty with him, and he'd be really uncomfortable with the idea.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
They do date, but that's much, I think Joss Whedon is actually the first person to actually put them together as a couple in Astonishing X-Men. I mean,
let's be honest. Petey Pureheart wasn't exactly, running through hose. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't a pimp named Slickback. That's for damn sure,
Right. I think regardless of age, any woman who came onto him aggressively would probably blush.
But no, and I never, the only thing new about the shippers thing is the term shippers, because to me, this just falls under Rule 34.
Well, right. But the reason I brought that up as an example, because, people read those comics back in the day. They saw, whether it was meant to be or not, they saw an implied lesbian relationship, and they took it as rote. And not only did they not have a platform to shout that out from the hilltops that Magic and Kitty are lesbians, they had nobody to tell them that they were stupid, and that wasn't the truth, right? You had your own headcanon.
Yeah.
Like the version of the story the way I read it. And now that everyone's got their platform to shout out their opinion, we can't just accept that. We have to correct for some reason, right?
Hey, look, I'd much rather
part of the reason that the Kylo Ren and Rey shippers are so vehement about their opinion is because there's a lot of people telling them that they're wrong and stupid. And I'm like, you can't be wrong about that. It doesn't even matter what the intentions of anybody, J.J. Abrams and the actors and the writers, any of those people, doesn't matter what their intentions are. The audience is the final puzzle piece of any piece of art, and whatever you bring to it, that's what it means to you.
Well, I mean, ultimately, outside of the ones who go like, supernova on social media and start posting like, death to J.J. Abrams and Disney, because that's people who are very passionate, about something, who are just pissed off at the time. And like I said, 99 times out of 100, I truly believe those people are going to look back and regret that at some point and be like, that was kind of stupid.
Hyperbole is the language of Twitter. Everyone thinks it's sarcasm, but it doesn't actually come across in print. So you just be hyperbolic.
But I'd rather them do that than make shitty fan fiction that turns into 50 Shades of Kylo and Rey, like they did with Twilight, and because that's how we got 50 Shades of Grey. So I'd rather have 50 Shades or just Twitter outrage. Get it out your system. You can always delete it later on, whatever the fuck. But just don't write shitty fan fiction that turns into Star Wars and BDSM. That's not BDSM. It's just an abusive relationship,
Right.
But it's cool because one of them's got money. So money, because God knows if he was a poor guy, this would be an episode of Law and Order SVU. So.
Right. What did we learn from 50 Shades? It's okay to be controlling of your woman. You just have to light some candles every once in a while.
Yeah. With $100 bills. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He was fucking filthy rich. Oh, and gorgeous. Oh, lesson learned, though. True love.
It's like the old Saturday Night Live skit with Tom Brady, how not to be accused of sexual harassment. 1, be good looking. It's like Horatio Sands comes up, hi, I was wondering if we can go on a date. Oh my God, human resources. And then Tom Brady comes up in like a thong. Hey, and he grabs her boob and she's like, oh my God, stop. You're so funny.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net.
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber.
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Not applicable to PayPal Here transactions. Other fees may apply. Shop safe with PayPal.
Pros bring something extra to every job. Now at the Home Depot, they also get something extra. Pro Extra, our free loyalty program built for pros just like you. Members earn perks with every dollar spent, like Pro Extra Dollars, a tool rental credit, and more. New members get $20 off their next in-store purchase of $200 or more just for signing up. Learn more at homedepot.com/Pro Extra. New year, more rewards, Pro Extra, only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
ChristopherMedia.net. Unregimented.
I will say, ultimately, I agree. Now that you got the original trilogy, the prequel, and the sequels. I agree with Red Letter Media's take on this, which is, looking back, Star Wars is the original movies, the original Star Wars, which has now been retconned to A New Hope, was saved by groundbreaking special effects, amazing editing versus the first cut, because it's out there, and I actually sought it out. Holy shit, George Lucas's first cut was a fucking clusterfuck.
Oh, really?
If you don't believe me, go look. He got his wife, one of Spielberg's editors, and shit, I forget where the other guy came from. He might have been through. I think his wife and two people that come from Spielberg's camp to re-edit it. I think, yeah, and they even went so far as to rewrite the opening crawl. Like, yeah. It is rough. And then ultimately John Williams' music. That's what made that first Star Wars so iconic. Yep. Then the linchpin that holds this whole house of cards together is Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
because that is as close to a really objectively good movie that stands on its own, that you don't need to be entrenched in the Star Wars universe and lore to watch and go, that's a good movie. The characters are developed. Like, George Lucas is very good at world.
It's got no fluff. There's no fat in that movie.
Exactly. George Lucas is good at world building. He's horrible at directing people to read his own dialogue. Right. Let's be honest here. But he can build a world, and he can plot out a story.
I hate sand. It gets everywhere.
It's coarse. It's dry. It's itchy. And it's like
it sounds like you're trying to go for some metaphor there, but
but it's not wooden. That's how I would describe your acting there. Yeah. Hayden. But no, I mean, like, the prequels, the one thing I'll give them is that George Lucas laid out a story to get from point A to point B in them. But, like, the Machiavellian political moves behind the scenes, I think he wasn't very good at fleshing them out to make them more interesting than they should have been more interesting than what they were. The original trilogy, other people came in and had a hand in because he wasn't George Lucas at that point. So someone could tell him no or say, I have a better idea.
Right.
And in this, oh God, this Disney trilogy, Disney needed to do one thing, and it might have saved this. Give it to one director, one writer who's got the final say, and let them make the whole trilogy.
Right. Yeah.
Whether it be Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams, whatever.
I don't understand why they didn't. It would be one thing if their only plans for Star Wars was to make 3 more movies to finish off the Skywalker saga, then I could kind of understand why they might want to bring in a variety of talent and try some things out, and that'll help them figure out, where they want to go, how they want to develop this going forward. But it obviously wasn't just those movies. They're also developing Solo and Rogue One, other movies that have that, some of which looks like might just be turned into TV projects for Disney Plus that they've had in production. They have a lot of different irons in the Star Wars fire that they were working with. And so they have that opportunity to spread it out and, let people play with it a little bit. But don't do that with your tentpole.
No. If this is supposed to be a wrap up to the Skywalker storyline, and it had a definitive end, and according to Disney, it has a definitive beginning now. The Emperor, through manipulation of the Force, created Anakin, and then he's there at the end, which I'm still not convinced that was the plan when they started making these new movies, that they were going to bring the Emperor back. But once they killed Snoke, it's like you got to have a big bad. And the thing I did find weird was, the Emperor's like, I hope you understand I made Snoke. And then there's all these pickled Snokes in jars floating around. And I'm like, really? Okay. All right. Why? I mean, like, there a lot of things that the Emperor did, I was like, huh? I have a fleet. And then a fleet of Star Destroyers comes out of the ocean that's fully manned and staffed. And I'm like,
right. I also have an army that I've been hiding here.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how I feed them. And also, I have an arena with stadium seating for them all to witness what goes on in the middle of this room, which is usually just me floating on the edge of a crane like Cameron Hodge. But, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was, oh God. So, what gives me hope is the Mandalorian, and this is what gives me hope about the Mandalorian. Even if you didn't care for the Mandalorian, because I've heard people say, "Whatever, I've seen this story type before." Okay, cool, but it took the Star Wars universe, and it got away from the space wizards, and didn't fucking crowbar them into the story. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was about something other than the Jedi and the Sith.
Yeah.
Because the Star Wars universe is fucking huge.
Yep.
And Jedi and Sith are like the elite of the elite of the elite of the beings in that universe. We've got 9 movies about them. I think we're good. Unless they're serious about bringing back Ewan McGregor for a Kenobi series. That's the only Jedi I want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like we watched a history of the world, and it was just all about the royal family.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's what this is. You're watching the 1% in this universe. The Emperor, his right-hand man, the top generals, even the people you meet who, like, is a smuggler, he ends up becoming a general. The best pilot ends up becoming a general. Finn ends up hugging the general and Poe. Like you said. He's
but
like...
So the Mandalorian, though, is Mandalorian is a weird show. So I generally enjoyed all of it, but was rather confused still by most of it. And I mean, this show looks great. It looks fantastic. $200
million for 8 episodes, if fucking better.
Yeah. I like the fact that this is, I like it just as an excuse to bounce around the Star Wars universe a little bit and see some things that we haven't seen. And even the stuff that we have seen before, we get to see a little bit more of it. And I like the Mandalorian just on its face as a device to kind of introduce us to the wider world of Star Wars, go beyond the 1%, like you were saying. And I liked the way, I really liked the last 2 episodes. I thought they were fantastic. Everything leading up to that, though, I was like, what is this show ultimately, right? It's doing a lot of cool things, but it's also completely failing on other things, like actually developing the character of the Mandalorian. It all happens in those last 2 episodes, all of his character development.
See, to me, I took that as first episode sets up, okay, he takes the job. He finds out it's a baby Yoda species. We still don't know the name of the species. Yeah. And he takes the baby Yoda. And to me, it was like, okay, he doesn't comprehend what he just took on. And when he he thinks he can just go about back to his day-to-day life where he's just going to do jobs or trade his skills to get him what he needs, whether it's his ship fixed or whatever the fuck. No, that's not. No, you are a marked man now. And then those episodes in between kind of is him learning that the hard way. And then to me, I think one of the best episodes that somehow got overlooked was the episode with where they go to break into the prison ship.
Right.
And that's because, one, you get to see the Mandalorian as the people he hunts sees him. Like those hallway scenes were almost like a horror movie where the light would cut off and then come back on and you see him in the background and it cuts off and comes back on and he's not there and then he's there again and you see him stalking those people. You're like, oh, I get it. He is a badass. All right, I get it. He is good at his job. All right. And the backstory did come in, and I was afraid they were going to do that. I'm like, they're going to totally load all his backstory at the end. You know what it was? You know what it was the equivalent of? The Marvel Netflix shows where the first season, they wear the homemade costume until the very last episode. And then you're like, oh. Like when they took his helmet off, I knew that was coming, but the way they did it, to have the IG droid do it, I was like, okay. I didn't roll my eyes at that.
It was a nice cheat.
Yeah, I'm like, it's a workaround. I can deal with that, because
it was a device that stuck out like a sore thumb, but it was probably the best they could have done that. And I don't know, it's such a, I admit it's got to be a tough thing to work with, having a character that you can't show his face. And that's probably a lot of my beef with those early episodes.
Well, the one thing I think the show did well is I cannot remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. Nick Nolte's character.
I have spoken.
Yeah, the Ognot. I remember his race because they were the ones that put Han Solo in carbonite in Empire Strikes Back. But
the action figure, the dude.
Yeah. When they killed him, I was bummed. I was like, wait a minute. Something in pop culture, disposable pop culture, made me actually care enough about a character that I was bummed out for a split second. Like, because so much shit now is just when Hux got killed in the Rise of Skywalker, didn't care. When Kylo died, didn't care. It was like, oh, okay. Well,
because they actually developed that character. They did it really efficiently, but
even the IG droid when he died, when he sacrificed himself, I was like, I'm more bummed out by this than any death in the new Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah. Well, the IG, I think this one is IG-11.
Yeah.
Him too. He actually. They were rather simple characters, but they set up exactly what their motivations were. You knew what made those characters do what they do, and their decisions all the way through their little character arcs totally made sense. I mean, it's much simpler for the droid, obviously. Like, he just has programming. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it's not hard to just give you something to work with. We learned right away about Nick Nolte's character and that he's seen a lot of shit and he's out here living in BFE because he doesn't want to be around any of that shit anymore. He's tapped out. Mm-hmm. And he wants to live a simple life, So we learn about his background. We learn about the type of character that he is and what's motivating him right now. And they don't do that for the Mandalorian in the first episode or the second episode. It kind of gets there. They build it up really slowly, but you've got to give me a reason to come back week after week. Now, obviously they did, and that reason is, again, the $200 million budget at Star Wars. Like, how am I not going to watch that? And, it had a lot of interesting and fun and cool looking elements that it was totally worth watching. I'm not saying like I wasted my time. I just feel like there's a lot of the show that it's a wasted opportunity to really develop that your main character of the Mandalorian.
I think one of the most telling things that came of that show was that show, they really started filming at a weird, strange time in Disney's run with Star Wars, because it was after Solo did like less than 500 million, like worldwide.
Oh, right. So they had to been looking at the Mandalorian going, oh shit. Like,
yeah. And it seems there was a very like wishy-washy.
They find out he's not Boba Fett, they're going to riot.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. It seems like there was very wishy-washy commitment on it, because if you notice, none of the episodes are a half hour, but none of them are an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no commercials, so there's no reason for them to be 42 minutes because you got to put 18 minutes of commercials in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
But I liked the pacing of each episode. I thought that was kind of nice and it wasn't a consistent time either. Like they were trying to hit a mark, because that's my beef with like especially the Marvel Netflix stuff, but a lot of Netflix stuff in general. They want to give you a show that is between 50 and 58 minutes, and if that means that there's going to be 3 scenes of people parking cars. Or going shopping for no reason, or reiterating parts of the plot that we already saw. Like there's so much waste in there, and this didn't feel like they wasted anything. They made great use of the time, the pacing and everything in each episode. I thought was done really well, and it felt like they made each episode exactly as long as it needed to be.
Well, I will say this, something that they did that I thought was slick, that so far people I've talked to, not many have noticed. I think it was the second to last episode, they moved to a Wednesday premiere.
Okay.
Do you know why they did that?
No, I didn't even know that they changed the actual day.
Yeah, it premiered on a Wednesday night, and the reason is because that's the episode where the baby Yoda heals Carl Weathers' character using the Force.
Yeah.
And then that Thursday night at midnight, the Last Skywalker come out, and they have the whole Force healing thing going on in that movie.
Yeah.
They were trying to head you're just making shit up now off at the pass. Because think about it. If Baby Yoda does it, everyone's going to love it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
no one's going to argue with that.
This is something that Chris and I were talking about this on the Weedsman podcast, and there were certain things that really threw him in this last movie. There was like, you can't just break the rules of Star Wars. But then there's other things that we talked about that were new elements that he actually liked. And I'm like, see, here's the difference is, it's not that you can't break the rules. It's that if you're going to break the rules, you have to do it for a very interesting way that moves the story forward. Not because you've gotten yourself into a corner with your plot and don't know how to get out of it. So now all of a sudden somebody can read minds. The rules of Star Wars can be broken and expanded, and it's all made up magic shit anyway, right?
Like, I get that, but I mean, there are when you have explicit rules stated that they go ahead and break because plot. That's where my beef starts. Case in point, the warp skipping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. All I can think of, jumping through hyperspace ain't like dusting crops, boy. If you don't charge it right, you can end up in the middle of a supernova or a star, and that'll end your day real quick. And then he he warp jumps like, 5 times in a row in just the perfect spot, and never into open space. It's always into, some planet with crazy shit going on. And I'm like, come on. Yeah. And then on top of that, they go, why don't we do the holdover maneuver? And I'm like, wait a minute, did you just say you want to kill yourself? You want to go take the Millennium Falcon warp speed into 3 TIE fighters? Really? 3 TIE fighters, and you're just ready to just throw the towel in? And then they shit on this movie. As not a fan of The Last Jedi, I do love the subtle middle fingers and the not so subtle middle fingers to The Last Jedi at times. When Poe goes, that's 1,000,001 chance that would work. And I'm like, okay, so wait a minute. So basically, Holdo's not a hero. She was a suicidal general. Because if it was 1,000,000 to 1, she was going to be able to do what she did. That you can't plan on 1,000,000 to 1. That's like saying, what's your retirement? I bought one lottery ticket. One lottery ticket. Yeah. That's my retirement plan.
That decision is, I'm definitely going to die, and there's a very small chance that I could save everyone while I do it.
Yeah. But then there's when she goes to throw the lightsaber into the fire, and then Luke catches it and goes, a Jedi always protects his weapon. I was like, oh, that's a huge fuck you to the beginning of that. Of the Last Jedi, when he throws it over his shoulder,
right.
Oh yeah. There's a couple more I forgot, but I was watching it like, ooh. Now I know why J.J. Abrams are like. So, what do you think about The Last Jedi, and how are you going to connect this to The Last Jedi? And he said in the interview, "Fuck it." Like I thought he meant fuck it. Like I don't know. I think maybe he was saying like fuck The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Look, he's a good filmmaker, but, he kind of fucked up my Star Wars shit. I left him an outline. He could have done anything he wanted. He just had to hit the beats. Clap on the downbeat, Ryan. Stop clapping on 1 and 3 here. You're fucking up the song.
Yeah. Well, good news is it sounds like we're going to the Old Republic next.
That's what I hear.
Or the High Republic. I've heard both. I don't know if I've heard both terms, and I don't know if they're both referring to the same era.
Old Republic is approximately 4,000 to 3,000 years before the first Star Wars.
Okay.
For A New Hope, let's put it that way.
Right.
I have no idea. I've never heard High Republic before. Here's what I get it going back. My problem is it's Disney, and they've proven they want to shove a lot of member berries into these fucking movies. And if you go back and they go back to the Old Republic, there's going to be ham-fisted member berries. That's my concern. I'd rather them go into the future. But if they do that with the television series, that, because as far as I know, there's 2 confirmed. There's going to be a Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a Kenobi series.
Yep.
The third one is rumored to either be Darth Vader, this doctor character, which they introduced in the Marvel Star Wars.
Dr. Aphra.
Yes.
Yep.
Who's like a cross between Han Solo and Indiana Jones, but she's also kind of a morally gray character.
She's chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
But she also has a pair of murderous droids, 000, and I forget what the astromech droid's name is, but 000 hates people and wants to dissect them, and we don't know most of what this R2 unit's friend says, but from the reaction from 000, it's even more heinous. Like 000 is completely amoral, and then like beep boop beep comes out of the astromech, and he's like, Jesus Christ.
So he's like the guy who was the Russian metal singer in Clerks. They're like, Olag, like girl, and he's like, and you're like, that's fucked up. Hey, what do you say? I don't know, but that's fucked up.
I dare not repeat. So Dr. Aphra's a fun character. I hope they go that route. Darth Vader, nah. Do we need a Darth Vader TV show?
Not really. I never watched the Clone Wars, and
they should make a really good Darth Vader cartoon. That's what they should do.
I've never watched the Clone Wars, and I've only seen a handful of Rebels, but I know enough about those cartoons to know that he drops in and out.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a good role to put him in, because too much Darth Vader, and I'm afraid that he's going to turn into like really, we're going to get more of the emo Darth Vader than the badass Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And let's go with what Hooper X said in Chase and Amy. The biggest, blackest brother in the universe. That's how I want to think of Darth Vader. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to think of him as some crusty, whiny white boy. You know what I'm saying? Like with snot on his sleeve because he's crying, he's wiping his nose. Like,
that being said, Kieran Gillen's Darth Vader series for Marvel, which is where Dr. Aphra is first introduced, is really good. Like, really fantastic. And it's all Darth Vader.
When I had the digital Marvel service, I read that because that's right. But I couldn't remember I didn't realize she was going to be as big of a character. I thought she was just like an insert character here for this X amount of issues type thing.
I think, yeah, she's supposed to be, but was popular enough to get her own. I think she's had I don't know if they have one currently running, but I think there were 2 series that they did with her solo.
Yeah. So, I mean, outside of Darth Vader, I'm cool with it. You know, if it's her, that's cool. She sounds like a character that they could. There's not enough source material going back decades for people to get butt hurt because you're not going with, you know what I'm saying? Like, what I've known about this character for 20 years or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And also, anyone who's, why a female character? Look, if a female Star Wars character bothers you, you got The Mandalorian. Shut up. Wait for season 2. Yeah. Okay? Like, to me, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. If The Mandalorian was female, but it was the exact same show, it would be, to me, it would be no less enjoyable. I could see people arguing that she's not a very caring mother. She seems disinterested. She doesn't have motherly instincts towards Baby Yoda. You know, it's like, oh God, she's a bounty hunter, and she's a killer. She's a professional killer. You expect them to go coochie coo? She was supposed to take off her plate armor and whip out a tit for the thing? Get the fuck out of here. Jesus Christ. But that's just people you can't win with. They're just looking to bitch and complain about what the fuck ever. But yeah, like I said, ultimately I'm glad this Skywalker shit's done with.
Yep.
I'm over it. You know, hey, Rey says she's a Skywalker. Sure. I guess in a way you came from the Emperor who kind of created Anakin Skywalker via the Force. So you got, and then you're his granddaughter. So I don't know. Fuck it. At a certain point, I'm just watching the movie going, stop asking questions. Look at the pretty lights. Ooh, explosions.
that was definitely an ending.
Yep, that movie ended. It really did.
The whole thing wrapped up. And we all learned an important lesson, like sometimes you need 2 lightsabers, I guess.
I mean, I thought I learned that in Knights of the Old Republic, the original game, because I was a dual-wielding Jedi in that game, and I was pretty badass, but, you know. But they drove the point home with normies who don't play video games.
All right, so I think that wraps it up for this episode. People can follow us on Twitter at, what is it again? Write this shit down. At Unregimented Pod.
Yeah, Unregimented Pod on Twitter, or you can just go to Christopher Media, and then there would be links to all of our Twitter and social media.
Yeah, there you go. If you find Christopher Media on Facebook or Twitter, you can find all our shows there, including Unregimented. Or you can go right to the Christopher Media website and find all our podcasts there.
ChristopherMedia.net, if you just want to cut out the middleman. And you can... I understand we're past Christmas, but you might have some Christmas money. You want to spend it on Amazon? Click through the Amazon banner. It gives us a little bit of a cut of your order, and it costs you nothing extra, and it helps. So,
or you can pay directly to us and help keep our podcasts afloat by clicking on the donate button on ChristopherMedia.net.
And since we're since we're here and we're back, so, sorry, Dawn, I didn't get back to you. There's been a lot going on, but yes, obviously, if you're listening to this, we did another show. So because she hit me up, she's like, having withdrawals, where are you guys at? And it was right in the middle of the holiday nonsense, and I just forgot to get back to her. So
yeah, everyone's been asking if we're back, and I guess we're back. Everyone being Dawn.
like a bad penny, we turn up. All right then. Well, I guess until next week. Later, guys.
See ya.
Unregimented. ChristopherMedia.net.
This is a Jackson Hewitt tax service announcement. Don't want to wait weeks for your tax refund? Visit Jackson Hewitt Tax Service today. File your taxes with Jackson Hewitt and ask a tax pro how you could get $500 to $4,000 fast with a no-fee refund advance. Money when you need it. A 0% APR loan from MetaBank available on a prepaid card fast, like Today Fast. Terms apply. Visit JacksonHewitt.com today. That's Jackson Hewitt.
Introducing touch-free payments from PayPal, a safe way for your customers to pay. Simply download the PayPal app and display your own unique QR code for your customers to scan. Whether you're a market seller,
I'll take 2 tomatoes and a cucumber.
poodle pamperer, piano tuner, or plumber. Signing up to accept touch-free payments for your business is easy. Touch-free QR code payments. Not applicable to PayPal Here transactions. Other fees may apply. Shop safe with PayPal.
ChristopherMedia.net. If you like this show, please tell a friend. Please make sure to rate and comment on all your favorite Christopher Media shows. Please follow us on Twitter and like and share us on Facebook. You can subscribe to all ChristopherMedia.net shows for free on ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for listening, and thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net. Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.